Chapter 1457. As the saying goes, when gods fight, mortals suffer. With Wang Yu's way of fighting the boss, even top experts like Hades King and Chuanjin would not be able to interfere. After all, Wang Yu's fighting rhythm was not something that ordinary people could keep up with. If they went up to help and interrupted Wang Yu's rhythm, then it would be considered as trouble. It would be better not to help. Helpless, Wu Ji and the others could only stand at the side and watch silently. Looking at Nephi, who was pressed to the ground by Wang Yu and couldn't open his eyes, everyone from Hades King's world was in a mess. Damn it, this group of people could be considered the top strength in the game. They couldn't even fight an elite-tier monster with a higher level, but this guy directly defeated a god-tier boss. Damn it. On the other hand, everyone from Quan Zhun strongly condemned Wang Yu's action of pressing Nephi to the ground and rubbing him. Nephi was a beautiful big sister after all. It was a bit too much for him to be so ruthless. TSK, what a straight man. Ming Du, Mr. Wuji, and the others all sympathized with Nephi's experience. However, there were also exceptions. For example, To Place One's Pride looked at things from a very strange angle. He looked at Wang Yu with reverence and said, "I really envy Uncle Nyo for being able to press a beauty under his body." As expected, children were children. Their thinking was so childish. Chun Xiang smiled wretchedly and said, "Envy me. You have to work hard too. If you don't suffer, how can you be a man above others? Man above others." TSK. Hearing Chun Xiang's words, everyone simultaneously gave him the middle finger. This old man, seeing that not only were the Chuanjin people not surprised by Wang Yu's method of fighting the boss, but they were even more surprised as they talked and laughed, as if they were used to it. They were even more surprised. Could it be that this group of bastards were blind? Couldn't they be more serious? Thinking of this, Grim Reaper's left hand could not help but point at Wang Yu and ask Wu Ji, "Aren't you surprised to see this?" Surprised. Wu Ji spread his hands and said, "But it'll be fine once you get used to it. Just get used to it. Just get used to it." Hearing Wu Ji's explanation, everyone in the Netherworld King realm burst into tears. Fuck, they were already used to this. Just as everyone was pointing fingers at Wang Yu and Nebulous, a dazzling flame suddenly flashed. A fiery red barrier burst out from Nebulous' body. A powerful force slammed into Wang Yu's body, sending Wang Yu flying several meters away. Everyone glanced at Nephi's health bar, which had already dropped below 30%. They couldn't help but exclaim, "Not good. The boss is going berserk." At the same time, within the protective shield, Nephius stood up, the clothes and armor on his body falling off piece by piece. F***CK me, there's such a benefit. The gazes of everyone from Quan Zhun were immediately drawn over. To Place One's Pride, this good-for-nothing had nosebleed flowing down his lips. The scene had already reached the upper limit of the game's gory content. The ones who were the most conflicted were those from the Netherworld King realm. These fellows boasted of themselves as righteous and noble people. If they didn't look at this sort of free benefit, wouldn't their hearts itch? If they did, wouldn't they become like the Chuanjin sect? Thus, the group of people covered their eyes with one hand and opened their fingers from time to time. It was very comical. Of course, this was proper documentary literature, not some kind of holy book. This game was also a game with the same values as the author, so it naturally wouldn't show too much content that was not suitable for children. In just a few seconds, all the clothes on Nephi's body had disappeared, and the color of the protective shield had become thicker. Nephi's had also turned into the silhouette of Anna. No one saw what they wanted to see. Clang! With a mournful cry of a phoenix, the protective shield shattered, and a huge, flaming phoenix flew out from within. Under normal circumstances, creatures like phoenixes don't dare to cry out when they see Uncle Nyo, so I don't know what a phoenix should be called. I'll rule it out. In any case, it's not meow, meow, meow. Of course, I know that there are cultivators and powerful beings in the universe among my readers. If anyone has seen a phoenix before, you can tell me what a phoenix should be called. Let's get back to the main topic. F***CK. The boss has revealed its true form. Quick, Don't let it fly. Wuji saw this and immediately gave everyone an order. In Rebirth, regardless of whether it was a small monster or a boss, as long as it could fly, it would definitely be the most difficult to deal with. Although everyone from Quanjin knew how to fly, the average level of the players was relatively low. They hadn't learned any skills to fight in the air, so in most cases, everyone was used to fighting on land. Their aerial combat skills were extremely low. After all, close combat professions like warriors and assassins had more than half of their skills that couldn't be used in the air. Mages didn't have many restrictions on their skills, but their mobility was much worse than when they were on land. Nephi was a god-tier boss. Looking at the shape of its wings, one could tell that it was a professional air force. Under normal circumstances, an expert like Wang Yu wouldn't be able to handle it, even if it left the ground. Now that it had revealed its true form, what could the others do even if they could fly? Without a front row, and having difficulty moving around, flying up would also be seeking death. The best way was to leave it on the ground. Pika Pikachu. Mingdu's left hand formed a seal, and his right hand raised the staff. Lightning flashed on the staff, and a lightning bolt as thick as a bucket fell from the sky towards Nephi. After Nephi transformed into a phoenix, its body was much bigger. Although its movement speed was much faster than before, it also became a much bigger target. Mingdu's ability to predict was also limited compared to Chunxiang's weakness. Boom! With a loud sound, this violent thunder spell accurately landed on Nephi's head. Violent thunder spell was a mage's strongest single-target skill. Other than having a strong magic attack, it also had a certain suppressive effect. However, normal players and monsters would respawn immediately after being hit by this lightning, so the suppressive effect wouldn't show up normally. At this time, it had a miraculous effect on Nephi. Nephisto was just about to take off, but before he could even take to the skies, he was struck by a bolt of lightning from Mingdu. With a sad cry, he went from a phoenix dancing in the nine heavens to a goose falling from the sand. Entanglement of thorns. Rise! Just as Nephi was falling, Chunxiang smashed the ground with his staff. A green light flashed on the ground, and thick vines twisted and rose into the air, wrapping around Nephi's claws. 1,000 miles of ice. At the same time, Rakshas's awakening skill was unleashed. Light blue frost instantly covered the ground. Actually, 1,000 miles of ice could only freeze targets on the ground. It had no effect on monsters in the air. However, Chunxiang's vines had wrapped around Nephi's legs. The frost of 1,000 miles of ice flowed along the vines and instantly froze Nephi and the vines into an ice sculpture. Chapter 1458. It had to be said that as the top experts in the industry, although Spring and the others were not as strong as Wang Yu, they were still outstanding. Strike, bind, freeze. This set of coordination was flawless. It could be said to be perfect. Even the eyes of the assessment team, who had just been shocked by Wang Yu, could not help but light up as a sense of gratification welled up in their hearts. This was a serious game. It seemed that there were still normal people in this world. However, perfect coordination was one thing, and the effective control was another. The difference between a beast and a humanoid boss was not just in terms of form. Although humanoid bosses were agile, flexible in their combat style, and could use many skills, their attack priority was far inferior to bestial bosses. The main difference was that bestial bosses had high attack priority, so they had over 80% resistance against players' crowd control skills. In other words, a skill that could control a beast boss for 10 seconds would only control it for 2 seconds at most. It might not even have any effect at all. As a mythological beast, her immunity to control skills had naturally reached an extremely high level. Even if she was only level 80 and she was being controlled by ice magic that could restrain fire, the effect of this control was still not as good as one would imagine. Seeing Nevis get frozen by Rakshas's 1,000 miles of ice before everyone could rejoice, the flames on Nevis's body suddenly turned. Pissed, at the same time, the piercing sound of water being poured into the flames could be heard. Nevis's holy body turned into a cloud of white mist. F*CK. Seeing this scene, everyone could not help but be stunned. Rakshas's current mood was definitely F***ket up. 1,000 Miles of Ice was an ice mage's ultimate skill. It had 15 seconds of control over the target. However, against Nevis, it did not even last for 2 seconds before the flames on Nevis's body vaporized her into a cloud of mist. This was only a level 80 boss. One could imagine how strong Nevis would be if he was at the peak of level 200. Even Wang Yu could not help but be speechless. Just now, when Wang Yu and Nephis had fought one-on-one, Nephis had still been in his human form, and all of his abilities were based on his skills. Under Wang Yu's storm-like control attacks, Nephis had been beaten to the point where he couldn't even retaliate. But now, after transforming into his phoenix form, his priority had broken through the heavens. It was as if he had an innate superbody. Even the 1,000 Miles of Ice, which could completely restrain the fire attribute, was negligible. It was completely impossible for him to attack as wantonly as he did before. Meow. As expected of a god-tier boss, its strength was terrifying. You bunch of ants. You have angered this king. Heavenly fire annihilation. Nephius let out a mournful roar. His figure instantly rose over a dozen meters, flying out of the attack range of Mingdu, Spring Soar, and the other mages. Afterwards, he spread his wings, and flames poured down from his wings like a waterfall. F***CK. Quick! Find cover. Seeing Nephius attack, everyone immediately panicked. Even Wuji, who is usually calm, had beads of sweat on his forehead. F***CK, a god-tier boss, was really generous. His first move was a full-screen attack. Players who had played online games knew that a full-screen attack couldn't be dodged. Facing such an attack, there was only one way, and that was to find an obstacle in the scene to use as cover to block the skill. However, Nephius was a so-called Birdman. Her Phoenix Palace had a very wide field of view. There wasn't even a pillar in the huge palace, so how could there be any cover? This isn't scientific. How could such a huge palace be built without any support? As a construction engineer, Spring Soar was very dissatisfied. In Lao Air couldn't help but despise science my ass. Can science explain this fire-breathing phoenix? It can't, Baosan said. In theory, as long as humans can grasp the elemental and molecular structure of matter, they can do this. Hearing Baosan's words, everyone from the Underworld King was dumbfounded. TSK. This group of lunatics really lives up to their reputation. Even in the face of death, they still have the mood to talk nonsense. T. Wuji glared at the two of them and said, Second brother, you and Shura go up. Medicine Master, prepare the Holy Light Shield. In Lao Air and Shura received the order and quickly stepped forward, raising their shields horizontally and activating shield wall. Wuji and Medicine Master raised their staffs and each threw a Holy Light Shield on top of their heads. Seeing this, Chuanjin and the people from the Underworld King all gathered under the shields. Since there was no cover, then they would create one. The reason why Nephius could break the Holy Light Shield was because Wuji's Holy Light Shield was on Wang Yu's doppelganger. This skill had no effect on doppelgangers, but for players, the Holy Light Shield had an invincibility effect and could block all damage for a short period of time. Under the buff of Shield Wall, In Lao Air and Shura's shields were more than 2 meters high and 5 to 6 meters long. It was more than enough to cover a dozen people. Whoosh! Just as the two formed shield wall, Nephius's flames landed on the shield and were all bounced off. In an instant, the entire Phoenix Palace was covered in flames. Looking at the sea of fire around them that was like purgatory, everyone was stunned. Damn, was this the strength of a god-tier boss? It was actually so strong. This Nephius was really reckless. If he didn't have low HP, he wouldn't have played. If he had transformed into a phoenix earlier, everyone would probably be dead. Little did they know that Nephius was currently in a sealed state. The phoenix form could only be activated when his HP dropped to 30%. To change forms as he pleased, he had to be at the peak of level 200. Besides, if Nephius had level 200 strength, Would he need to transform to fight these level 50 and 60 players? Skyfire Extinguisher was not only a full-screen attack skill, but also a continuous damage output skill. Nepheus spread his wings, and flames fell from the sky. The sky of flames lasted for a full 10 seconds before it stopped. Chuanjin and the people from the Underworld King secretly broke out in a cold sweat. The priest's holy light spell only lasted for a total of 15 seconds. If this turkey spat 2 more times, everyone would probably become a family bucket. Ha ha! A tiny insect dares to challenge a god? Now you know how powerful this king is. Killing people and setting fires was really something that made people feel happy. Looking at the sea of fire on the ground, Nepheus flapped his wings twice and laughed proudly. Hearing Nepheus's laughter, everyone was speechless. The image of Nepheus as a god-tier boss instantly collapsed in everyone's hearts. Was this the arrogant phoenix from before? She was clearly a shrew who won in cursing. Mingdu was a straightforward person. He couldn't help but shout, "What are you laughing at? It's so unpleasant." Chapter 1459. You guys didn't die? Looking at the lively Wang Yu's group below, Nephi was shocked and angry. He was shocked because these players were really difficult to deal with. They were still alive after being burned by him. As for being angry, most people had a side that was not known to others. A girl who looked clean and tidy on the surface could be a tomboy at home. It was obvious that Nephi was such a bird. In front of outsiders, he would act high and mighty. When he was alone, he would reveal his true nature. Wang Yu and the others had clearly seen Nebulous's cursing behavior and remembered it. At this moment, Nebulous was like an otaku whose drive had been opened. A sense of shame arose from within him. If not for the fact that the fire phoenix was fiery red, everyone would have been able to see Nephi's flushed face. Good. Just a little more. Everyone was still fearful of Nephi's attack. Did you all hear it? Ha ha! Wuji touched the back of his head and said, "If we said we didn't hear it, would you believe us?" "No." Nephi shook his head. "Then that's it. We all heard it." Wuji laughed. "Damn it. You all have to die. Sea of purgatory flames." After receiving Wuji's affirmation, Nephi went berserk. The flames on his body seemed to explode and spread out. Then Nephi opened his mouth and flames descended from the sky again. This time, Nebulous's flames didn't cover the entire area like before. Instead, they formed a fan shape from Nebulous's mouth and sprayed towards the Chuanjin people. F***CK. At this time, Chuanjin and the Hades players no longer had the holy light shield that guaranteed invincibility. Lao Air and Shura did not dare to resist the attack of a god-tier boss. Hence, without another word, everyone ran towards Nephisto's direction. After all, this attack wasn't a full-screen skill. As long as you avoided the area it covered, you would be fine. Nephthys' attack was fan-shaped. The further back you ran, the larger the attack range. The closer you ran to Nephthys, the smaller the attack range. Warriors and paladins had skills like colliding charge, assassins had swift steps, archers were naturally fast, and grandmasters of combat also had movement skills like collapsing fist. Naturally, they were able to dodge the attacks with some difficulty. The only pitiful ones were the mages. Wuji and Mingdu were fine. One had second invincibility, and the other had teleportation. Mingdu jumped out of the attack range immediately, and Wuji also rushed out leisurely. Chunxiang, Rakshasa, and Medicine Master Do were unlucky. Chunxiang had put all his points in a mass, so his movement speed was very slow. Although he had thick skin against a god-tier boss's attacks, 100,000 HP was no different from 1 HP. In any case, he would die if he touched it. Chunxiang did not even have time to scream before he was burned to ashes. Rakshasa originally had the Ice Shadow spell, but this brat had awakened it after Nephisto had transformed and attracted the hatred of Nephisto. Nephisto hated him to the bone, and this fire was set on Rakshasa. Naturally, he would not let go of any of Rakshasa's shadows. Poor Rakshasa left even earlier than Chunxiang. Medicine Master Do had already given the Holy Light shield to Shura. Seeing the fire coming towards him, he didn't resist or escape. He drew a cross in front of his chest and went to see the light god. Such a devout priest made Wuji feel ashamed. In the blink of an eye, the team lost 3 people. Everyone was shocked. However, Nephi's magic was not over. Although most of Chuanjin and Hades' players escaped from Nephi's fire attack range, the fire didn't disappear after it landed on the ground. Instead, it spread rapidly. The Sea of Purgatory fire deserved its name. Mephisto was even more ruthless than an outsider when it came to tearing down his own nest. The violent flames quickly spread to every corner of the palace. What made everyone sweat even more was that when the flames reached the corners of the walls, they would climb up the walls. Seeing that the fire was getting closer and closer, everyone could only retreat until they reached the bottom of the wall. At this time, they couldn't stay on the ground. The damage of the fire that spread over was no less than when it was spat out. If they stayed on the ground, they would be burned alive sooner or later. As for using climbing to climb up the wall, that was even more impossible. Not to mention that the fire could also climb up the wall. Even if the fire could only burn on the ground, climbing up the wall was the worst idea. Because climbing was limited by the terrain, climbing up the wall was not only slow, but also inconvenient. If they climbed up the wall, they would become a target for the boss. The only thing they could do now was to take off. After all, no matter how difficult it was to control flying, at least moving was faster than running. Their chances of survival were definitely much higher. Thinking of this, Wang Yu asked Death's left hand and the others, "Do you have wings?" But as soon as he asked, Wang Yu regretted it. Oh, everyone in Chuanjin fell silent. Wings were the rarest and most precious equipment in Rebirth. Players who could equip wings were either extremely wealthy or professional players who had the support of a big guild. These paupers from the Underworld King realm had just entered the Blood Alliance, and then they were sent to help the Quan Jun sect raid dungeons. How could they have such valuable items? Wang Yu's question was undoubtedly rubbing salt into their wounds. No. Death's left hand shook his head decisively. The others also guessed Chuanjin's thoughts and revealed depressed expressions. Chuanjin was also a little embarrassed. Although it was Chuanjin's style to abandon their comrades and run, it also depended on who they were dealing with. For Chuanjin's own brothers, it didn't matter if they ran away. Everyone could understand each other. As for those who weren't familiar with them, they were used to betray them. No one felt burdened. But it was a little awkward to meet Underworld World, who weren't really brothers but had some friendship with them. After all, they had fought side by side along the way and had developed a sense of class. Even if Chuanjin's group was shameless, it would be a little embarrassing to abandon Underworld World's group and run away by themselves. Seeing Chuanjin's dilemma, Death's left hand waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about us, just fly. It's a pity that we can't fight with you to the end. Everyone do your best." It was a game, not reality. Death's left hand was an honest person and wouldn't do something like dragging others to die with him. "Okay." Wuji sighed and said, "Brother left hand, then I'm sorry. If we are lucky enough to pass the dungeon, we definitely won't take anything that can be used by Underworld World." As he said this, Wuji gestured to Wang Yu and the others. Whoosh! A pair of wings extended from the backs of Wang Yu and the others. With a flap of the wings, they flew into the sky. However, Yang Na didn't fly. Instead, she walked in front of Death's left hand and handed her cloak to him. Seeing the cloak in Yang Na's hands, everyone was stunned. Death's left hand was at a loss and didn't know whether he should take it or not. He panicked and said, How can this be?" Chapter 1460. All right. The flames were not far away from them. The situation was urgent, so Grim Reaper's left hand did not waste any more time. He nodded heavily, took the cloak from Yang Na's hands, and put on. Then, he spread his wings and soared into the sky. At the same time, the flames had also spread to the feet of Yang Na and the people from Hades. Everyone calmly turned into white light. The team of 20 people was reduced by half in just one encounter. "Stubborn guy, eat my flame shadow slash." Seeing that the targets were not completely eliminated, Nephi sneered. He folded his wings and turned into a stream of light, rushing in the direction of everyone at an extremely fast speed. Fly up. Seeing this, Wuji immediately gave the order to the surviving Chuanjin members. Everyone received the order and quickly flew into the sky. Swoosh! Nepheus flew past everyone's feet, bringing with him a gust of astral wind that caused everyone to sway. The people from the Quanzhen sect were still fine. After all, everyone had been wearing cloaks for a long time. Although they were not as proficient in flying as they were in fighting on the ground, it was still very easy for them to maintain their stability. Everyone adjusted themselves slightly and stood still. Grim Reaper's left hand was more miserable. He had not mastered the essentials of flying for the first time and was blown away by the wind brought by Nephi. F***CK. The miserable Grim Reaper's left hand exclaimed and lost his balance. He turned his head and fell head first to the ground. F***CK. Grim Reaper's left hand was about to cry. Death in the game was not scary, but it was not so simple for Grim Reaper's left hand to die. Yang Na had sacrificed her life to keep the Grim Reaper's left hand alive. If he didn't even survive for 30 seconds before crashing to his death, not only would he lose his EXP and face, but he would also be letting down Yang Na's good intentions. How was he supposed to face Yang Na when he got out of here? What are you shouting for? Just when Grim Reaper's left hand thought he was going to die heroically on the spot, he suddenly heard a familiar voice in his ear. Then his ankle was grabbed by a big hand, and Grim Reaper's left hand was pulled into the air. Nyogo, the Grim Reaper's left hand, readjusted his body and saw the person who had helped him at the critical moment. He quickly wiped his sweat and thanked Wang Yu. Thank you, thank you. Wang Yu waved his hand and said, You're not used to flying yet, so don't go forward. Stay here and don't move. Just stand still and deal damage. Stand still and attack? Death's left hand said, Is that okay? Standing still and dealing damage was actually Death God's left hand specialty, but now that he was facing a celestial boss, there was no way he could stand still. Wang Yu nodded and said, All right, we will create opportunities for you to deal damage. Just perform at your normal level. You don't need me to teach you that, right? F***CK. Death's left hand was depressed. Meow, this is looking down on me. I'm a top-notch expert, all right? When I play games, you're still wielding your sword and stick. Do I need you to teach me how to play games? No need. The Grim Reaper's left hand was provoked by Wang Yu, and the aura of an expert was revealed. He proudly said, Go ahead and attack. I guarantee that your arrows will not miss. Wang Yu nodded with satisfaction and said, No wonder Wuji said that you're the most reliable. That's what I wanted to hear. After saying that, Wang Yu spread his wings and flew towards Chuanjin's group. Attack! Although the priority and damage of the mythical beast Nephis was much higher, the cooldown time before he attacked was much longer than when he was in his human form. Nephis revealed his back, revealing it to everyone. Wuji's eyes were vicious and immediately gave the order to attack. Thunderstorm. Without waiting for Nyoge to adjust his body, Mingdu's left hand made a sign and his right hand raised his staff. He used his ultimate skill. Following Mingdu's chant, thunderclouds condensed above Nyoge's head. Lightning fell from the sky and fell on Nyoge's body. It couldn't be helped. The huge body of a boss in beast form was an advantage, but it was also a disadvantage. At this time, Nyoge's body was quite huge. Mingdu didn't even need to predict when to cast spells. He just threw them at his head. Anyway, the target was so big, how could he hit it? Voila! After taking on Mingdu's thunderstorm, Nyoge's body flashed, and he was paralyzed. Although it was only a short second, it was enough for Chuanjin's people who had already rushed forward. Instant hell slash, hazy space slash, Yama, shadow chain kick. Ultimate skills flew up one after another, and in this second, they all landed on Nyoge's body. Even Wuji, who was behind him, threw a grenade of holy light to join in the fun. There was strength in numbers. This was definitely not a joke. A series of damage numbers flew up, and the remaining HP on Nyoge's head dropped by 1/5. Ga! Nyoge screamed, and a flame of more than 10 feet suddenly burst out from his back. The flame tongue instantly swept everyone in. F***CK. Neo-Ge's magic damage was extremely high. This flame directly burned the HP on Lao Air's head by half, and Bao San's HP turned red. As for Ming, Jian Dao Shui, Bai Ming Yu, and to place one's pride, these three thin-skinned unlucky guys, they were burned into white light on the spot. Bang! Seeing that Lao Air and Bao San were also about to be burned to death, suddenly only a thunderous sound of a bowstring was heard. A thick arrow flew in an instant and hit the back of Neo-Ge's head. Duong! Neo-Ge's head shook slightly, and a mosquito coil symbol appeared above it. He was stunned. Shock Arrow. Shock Arrow was a rare, strong control skill of archers. It could stun the target. At this time, when used by an archer with full strength, the priority was undoubtedly quite high. It actually directly hit 3 seconds of stun, which was even higher than the priority of Mingdu's awakening skill. Damn, this archer with full strength is really terrifying. After Neo-Ge was stunned, the flame on his back instantly disappeared. Bao San and Lao Air both spread their wings and flew into the sky. Seeing this scene, Wuji suddenly remembered that when they first entered the dungeon, 2 random ice spells were able to control the hell lava, but the control effect of the melee profession was not big. He immediately realized that the control resistance mechanism in Rebirth was set up like this. Magic bosses had high resistance to magic control, and physical bosses had high resistance to physical control. As a magic-based boss, Nephius was very resistant to magic crowd control. It was no wonder that Rakshasa and Bright Doe's awakening skills couldn't control him. Instead, it was the Death God's left hand's shock arrow that worked. Second brother, stun her. Everyone else, attack. Thinking of this, Wuji suddenly saw the light. He finally found a way to deal with Neo-Ge and quickly gave orders to Lao Air. After receiving Wuji's orders, while the effect of shock arrow had not disappeared, Lao Air retracted his wings, raised his shield, and smashed it on the back of Neo-Ge's head. Duong. Chapter 1461. 3 seconds. Just as Wuji had predicted, Nephi's resistance to physical control wasn't high. Luckily, Nephi had turned into her phoenix form after being ravaged by Wang Yu. Her huge body had a high hit rate. If she was in her human form, melee classes wouldn't have been able to hit her so easily. 3 seconds wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. It was enough for everyone to complete a wave of damage output. Because everyone's skills were on cooldown, and they had lost 3 powerful attackers, they only managed to reduce Nephi's remaining HP by 1/10. 3-pack. Keep up with the crowd control. Without waiting for the stun effect to disappear, Wuji ordered. 3-pack followed up with a thunder shock strike, and the stun duration was extended by another 3 seconds. Everyone dealt another wave of damage, and her HP dropped by 1/10. Next was Wang Yu. Grandmasters of Combat had many crowd control skills. Knee Rush and Elbow Strike were both stun-type crowd control skills. Wang Yu flew in front of Nephi's head, grabbed the feather on Nephi's head, and pulled it down. His knee slammed heavily into Nephi's head. The stun duration was extended by 5 seconds. After the stun effect of Knee Rush ended, Elbow Strike followed, and the duration was extended by 2 seconds. At the same time, the cooldown of Death God's left hand stun arrow had also ended. Everyone was a top-notch expert. Skill cooldown and crowd control were all basic skills. Naturally, they had a good grasp of it. Under the continuous control and coordination of Wang Yu and the others, the stun effect on Nephi formed a cycle. Under the horrified gaze of the inspection team, the stun symbol on Nephi's head didn't disappear until he was beaten to death. Kaboom! With everyone's cooperation, Nephi's HP was finally emptied. Her huge body fell from the sky and landed on the ground full of flames. Looking at Nephi's dead body, everyone let out a long sigh of relief. Damn, he's finally dead. After playing Rebirth for so long, this was the first time they had encountered such a difficult boss. The team of more than 20 people had only 6 people left, and this was under the premise that Wang Yu was with them. Such a heavy loss was definitely unprecedented in the history of rebirth in Xuanzhen. However, considering that their opponent was a god-ranked boss, these losses were worth it. After all, even if the boss was only level 80, ordinary guilds wouldn't be able to defeat it without sacrificing hundreds or even thousands of players. Compared to this, these losses were nothing. According to tradition, the next step was to loot the corpse. Looking at the huge fire phoenix on the ground, no one could hide the excitement in their hearts, but no one stepped forward. This was the first celestial boss that the players had defeated in Rebirth. It was definitely a first kill that transcended the era. Although everyone wanted to loot the corpse, they were still a little hesitant. Looting the boss was a benefit reserved for the player who contributed the most to the team. Obviously, with Wang Yu around, no one dared to say that they contributed the most. After all, 80% of Nephi's HP was taken down by Wang Yu alone. This was a god-rank boss. If they didn't get something good, they would probably hate themselves for the rest of their lives. As the saying goes, don't be afraid of thieves stealing, but be afraid of thieves remembering. Moreover, these bastards were all ruthless and powerful. So for a moment, everyone was eager to give it a try, but they didn't say anything. Huh, don't you usually fight to loot the corpse? What's going on today? Seeing that no one was looting the corpse, Wang Yu was surprised. If there's no other way, I'll go. Saying this, Wang Yu was about to go down. Don't. Seeing that Wang Yu was going to loot the boss, everyone panicked. Niuge, this is a celestial boss. Please spare us. Can't we take a screenshot and post it to our friends? Huh. Seeing everyone's panicked faces, Wang Yu laughed. I'm just joking. F***CK. Everyone was furious. If it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't beat Wang Yu, they would probably have rushed up and beaten up Wang Yu. This bastard was too evil. He knew that everyone was excited, but he still made fun of them. If that's the case, I'll go. At this time, Wu Ji volunteered to go. In terms of contribution, Wu Ji had been commanding the entire time. Other than Wang Yu, Wu Ji's contribution was the highest. As for luck, Wu Ji had always been known as the Lucky Prince, so he was able to take on this responsibility. Thus, everyone voted unanimously and gave Wu Ji the right to loot the boss. Wu Ji spread his wings and flew to Nebula's corpse. Just as he was about to touch it, a red light flashed on Nebula's body, and he turned into an egg. The egg was half a foot tall, red in color, and surrounded by flames. It was obviously not an ordinary item. Wu Ji was shocked by this sudden change. He quickly took out his staff and poked the egg twice. At this time, the red egg flashed and bounced Wu Ji away. The remaining flames were like iron filings attracted to a magnet, and they were all absorbed by the egg. At the same time, the fire elements from all directions also flowed into the egg at a speed visible to the naked eye. Kaka. In the next second, the eggshell cracked. Gaga. A small fiery red bird flew out from the eggshell, and with a sway of the wind, it transformed into a fire phoenix of the same size as the one before. Nebulous was actually resurrected. F***CKU. Seeing this scene, Wu Ji was shocked and quickly flew into the sky. Nebulous squinted his eyes and mocked. Lowly worm, you want to defeat me? You are all very ambitious. Before he finished speaking, Nebulous spat out a wave of flames at everyone. After fighting with Nebulous for so long, everyone already knew what Nebulous was capable of. Seeing Nebulous open his mouth, Yinlao Air raised his shield. Wu Ji used a holy light shield, and everyone hid behind Yinlao Air. After the flames, Nebulous' attack was stopped. Without waiting for Nebulous to attack again, the Grim Reaper's left hand took a deep breath and took out an arrow from his quiver. He knocked the arrow and released it. Bang! With the sound of the bowstring, the Grim Reaper's left hand's shock arrow hit Nebulous' head. Nebulous was controlled again. The difference was that this time, Nebulous had the intention to dodge. However, his body was too big, and the Grim Reaper's left hand's arrow was also too big, so he couldn't dodge. Nebulous was stunned. Everyone rushed forward and did the same thing. Nebulous' health bar was empty again. Bang! Nebulous landed. Then he turned into an egg, gathered the fire elements, and resurrected. F asterisk CK, F asterisk CK, F asterisk CK. At this moment, Wang Yu and the others' feelings were absolutely indescribable with words. This lousy boss was endless. He was simply shameless. Seeing Wang Yu and the others being defeated, everyone in the assessment team smiled. Ha ha ha. The bald guy laughed. This is called an immortal bird. It can be reborn, understand? As long as there is fire elements, it can be reborn indefinitely. Let's see how long you can last. Chapter 1462. Looking at the second revival, Wuji started to panic. Everyone had encountered the situation of unlimited revival before entering the instance dungeon. The Inferno Monarch's clone was such a shameless fellow. The clone was already a headache for everyone. After all, unlimited revival meant unlimited lifespan. Their lifespan was unlimited, but their mana was limited. As long as they were sane, they would not use their limited mana to exchange for someone else's unlimited lifespan. At this moment, the Inferno Monarch's real body was even more powerful than the clone. Although the clone could revive infinitely, its strength did not change. However, the legendary boss had the ability to grow in battle. Moreover, everyone knew that the Phoenix's Nirvana characteristic was that it would become stronger with every revival. At this moment, everyone could clearly feel Nevis's growth. If Nevis was allowed to revive, it would only be a matter of time before she killed herself. Ga. Just when everyone was helpless against Nevis, Nevis let out a strange cry and opened his mouth to spit out a ball of flames. It was still a familiar routine, and it was still a familiar skill. Everything was done with ease, and everyone was already used to it. Everyone spread their wings and rose into the air, easily dodging Nevis's flames. Just as they were about to retaliate, Nevis did not wait for the flames to finish spitting out. He immediately canceled the skill and raised his head to spit out a second wave of flames at the Chuanjin members above him. As expected of a legendary boss, he had already seen through everyone's routine and changed the way he fought. F asterisk CK. Everyone cried out in surprise. Yin Lauer raised a shield to resist the flames. Without Wuji's holy light shield, Yin Lauer had to fight the boss head-on. A legendary shield against a legendary boss. Of course, the one with the higher level would win. After being spat out by Nevis, the durability on Yin Lauer's shield decreased greatly. Left hand. Quick, control him. Seeing that Yin Lauer could not hold on for much longer, Wuji hurriedly ordered the Death God's left hand to attack. Bang! Without waiting for Wuji to finish his order, the sound of a bowstring being released could be heard. A thick arrow flew towards Nephius's face, bringing with it a bright light. However, just as the Grim Reaper's left hand was about to stun Nephis' head shook slightly. Whoosh! The arrow in the Grim Reaper's left hand brushed past Nephis's head. Duong! With a loud bang, the arrow was deeply embedded in the wall behind Mephisto, causing the stones on the wall to rustle and fall. Seeing that the Grim Reaper's left hand had missed the target, Yin Lauer's hair stood on end. He shouted angrily, "Left hand, I'll F asterisk asterisk K you. You can't even shoot at such a close distance." Meow. If the Grim Reaper's left hand couldn't control Nevis, then Nevis' skills wouldn't stop. Yin Lauer was the one who felt the most conflicted. If Yin Lauer retracted his shield, then everyone would die. If he didn't, then the shield would disappear. If they were facing a normal boss, it would be fine if they got wiped. However, they were facing a celestial boss. They had worked so hard to reach this point. If they gave up now, it would be more painful than losing a celestial shield. How frustrating, no? Impossible. The Grim Reaper's left hand was also dumbfounded, as if he couldn't believe what was happening. Who can tank it? I can't hold on any longer. Yin Lau's second brother shouted gloomily as he watched the shield's durability plummet. However, among everyone present, Yin Lauer was the only shield warrior. Although 3 Bao was a warrior, he had added a point to agility, so he definitely wouldn't be able to tank the boss. As for the others, there was no need to mention them. Mages, priests, archers, and grandmasters of combat. none of them were made to tank the boss. F asterisk asterisk K. Just as Yin Lao Air was about to give up, Wang Yu's figure flashed and appeared below Nebulous' neck. Nebulous used his mouth to spit fire, so there were no flames below his neck. Immediately, Wang Yu extended his right hand and grabbed Nebulous' neck. Strangle. This was a skill that Wang Yu had created. Although its damage wasn't as high as Sidekick, it had a very overpowered effect. Interrupt skills. After being hit by Wang Yu's strangle, Nebulous screamed, and the flames in his mouth stopped. Strangle could only interrupt skills, but couldn't control the boss. Nebulous' fire was forcefully stopped. In a fit of anger, he flapped his wings and tried to fling Wang Yu away. Wang Yu's left hand grabbed the feathers on Nebulous' head and pulled it down, then swung his right elbow. Bang! An elbow strike smashed into Nephi's head. A mosquito coil rose up, and Nephi's was stunned. Damn you! Yin Lao Air, who had just escaped death, flapped his wings and flew in front of Nebulous. He raised his shield and fiercely hit Nebulous. Then, he started to punch and kick Nebulous. As he hit, he cursed, "Damn, you scare me to death, you know." A defeated phoenix was no better than a chicken. These words weren't false. Nebulous was still a proud god beast. Seeing Yin Lao Air punch and kick him so cruelly, Wang Yu couldn't bear it and pulled Yin Lao Air to the side, saying, Okay, go to the side. Don't block other people's attacks. Punching and kicking, it's too much. TSK, SK, SK. Hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone sighed. Did you hear that? This bastard actually said that other people's punching and kicking were too much to deal with Nebulous in beast form. The most important thing was the first control. It was a firebird. Its whole body was covered in fire, and it could even spit fire from its mouth. Only ranged attackers could control it first. Although the Grim Reaper's left hand failed, with Wang Yu there, everything was more daunting than dangerous. The control continued, and the attack continued. With everyone's cooperation, Nebulous' health bar was emptied for the third time. Boom! Nebulous' corpse once again fell to the ground. Nebulous' death didn't make anyone happy. Instead, they were full of worry because they knew that this bird would revive soon. We can't just watch her die again and again. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Wang Yu asked. Yin Lao Air said gloomily, "You think we don't want to give her a quick death? But there's no other way. Look, this stupid bird will turn back into an egg in a few seconds. When the time comes, the fire element will gather and it will be a lively bird again." Sigh. Hearing Yin Lao Air's words, the others helplessly shook their heads. What could the players do when the boss was shameless? They could only fight it head-on. Maybe after killing and killing, the boss would get tired of it and commit suicide. While everyone was talking, Nebulous' corpse once again turned into a red egg. At the same time, the surrounding fire element turned into countless light spots and was absorbed by the egg. Chapter 1463. Nonsense. The Fire Element. With regards to Wuji's retarded question, no one thought much of it. They were all expert players, not Wang Yu. Was there need to ask such a question? Yes. Wuji pointed at the egg and said, "Did you not see that the egg absorbed the fire element to revive?" "We saw it. So what?" Everyone said helplessly. "As long as we prevent the egg from absorbing the fire element, it will be fine, right?" Wuji said. "This, you must be joking." Everyone could not help but purse their lips. "Where's this place?" "Divine Flame Mining Area." There were flame ores everywhere. The fire element was almost solid. Preventing the egg from absorbing the fire element? Dream on. Ha! Wuji laughed proudly. "Did you forget how we got in?" Hearing Wuji's words, everyone was startled. Then, they turned to look at Wang Yu. "How do we get in?" "Yes, a scroll. A fire immunity scroll." Before coming here, Wang Yu had bought 2 fire immunity scrolls. He had only used one when he entered. Wang Yu should have another one in his hands. After entering the instance dungeon, everyone had been thinking about how to deal with Nevis and had forgotten about this. Since the others could think of this, Wang Yu naturally realized this as well. Thus, without saying anything further, she jumped next to Nephisto's egg. She deftly took out the fire-resistant scroll from her pocket and tore it in half. Puh! The fire immunity scroll transformed into an energy barrier, enveloping Wang Yu and Nevis. After Nevis' egg was isolated by the fire immunity scroll, the fire element in the air seemed to have lost its traction. They fell to the ground and disappeared. The health bar above Nevis' egg also stopped growing. At that moment, Wuji reminded, "Old cow, attack that egg." Wang Yu nodded. A kick landed on the egg. Without the protection of the fire element, Nevis' egg lost its reflective shield. Wang Yu's attack landed on the egg without any hindrance. Pa! With one kick, the eggshell cracked from Wang Yu's kick, and its HP dropped a little. As expected, this was a correct way to use the fire-resistant scroll. No wonder the tavern owner took out 2 scrolls. This game really didn't have any extra items. If he had only bought one, he would probably be dead by now. Needless to say, the designer's tricks were everywhere. When Nephius was alive, everyone could beat her to death. Now that she had turned into an egg and couldn't even move, she was naturally at the mercy of others. Under Wang Yu's barrage of kicks and punches, Nephism's HP bar was finally emptied. Crash! The eggshell shattered, and at the same time, a system announcement rang in everyone's ears. System announcement. Player Wuji's party has finally defeated the celestial boss, Inferno Monarch Nephius, after a difficult battle. As the first party to defeat a celestial boss, they will receive the special title Godslayer, and their achievements will be recorded in the history books. At this time, the national server had been successfully connected to Yakutai City and Saga City, where Wang Yu is located. Therefore, the system announcement was sent 3 times, instantly resounding in every corner of the hero's continent. We cleared the dungeon. Outside the Godly Flame mining area, Chuanjin and Hades, who had died and left the dungeon, saw the announcement. They clenched their fists in excitement and almost jumped up. They didn't expect to successfully clear the dungeon with more than half of their team members gone. Not only Hades and Chuanjin, but all the players who saw the announcement were excited. Damn, a celestial boss? Who is this Wuji guy? Is he stronger than Iron Ox? Wang Yu's activity in the Pro League had left a deep impression on the national server players. Now that Wuji had suddenly appeared, it was really amazing that the national server was full of talents. Hearing this, a veteran player said disdainfully, "What do you know? Wuji is the leader of Chuanjin, and Iron Ox is his underling." Really? Of course it's true. You can verify it. All the players in Rebirth know about it. TSK, TSK, TSK. Sky Dragon City, City Lord's Mansion. Hearing the system announcement, Dugu Jiuqiang jumped up. F*CK, the celestial boss? Do these guys have to go too far? Of course they're going too far, but it's not too surprising that that kid is there. Light Brother reminded him. Boss, did you forget? Why did our Sky Dragon City's Dragon Island unseal? Dragon Island. Speaking of Dragon Island, Dugu Jiuqiang had a headache. Damn, if his subordinates hadn't mentioned it, Dugu Jiuqiang would have forgotten about it. If it wasn't for Wang Yu letting Dragon Emperor Dales go, Dragon Island wouldn't have unsealed. During the Pro League, they wouldn't have fallen into Wuji's trap. From then on, Dragon Island wouldn't have been teleported to Chuanjin. Thinking of this, Dugu Jiuqiang sighed. Not long ago, during the apocalypse, they were still on par with Chuanjin. Now, the gap between the 2 guilds was getting bigger and bigger. What made Dugu Jiuqiang even more depressed was that Chuanjin only had less than 20 people. How infuriating. In Anaswar Mountains, 5 Lakes 4 Seas, who was fighting the boss, was shocked when they saw the system announcement. They were almost wiped out by the boss. 3 Mountains 5 Peaks said in shock, "What the heck? A celestial boss? Is there anything that those guys can't do? That's too overpowered." That's right. 5 Lakes 4 Seas thought for a while and said, "But I think this celestial boss must be overpowered. It's not like we haven't seen level 200 celestial bosses before. Under the absolute suppression of attributes, no matter how good his mechanics are, it's useless. He only knows Kung Fu, not Sun Wukong." That's true. Is it sealed? The 9th Heaven Divine, Arrow muttered. That's right. Hee hee. 5 Lakes 4 Seas laughed, and said, "A sealed celestial boss is still a celestial boss. Don't find excuses for your shortcomings. Everyone, let's work harder. Once we kill this boss, our mission will be completed. When that time comes, we can also go on TV." All right. With the stimulation of the Chuanjin sect, the frequency of the attacks of the 9 regions, people also accelerated a bit. It was the first kill of a celestial boss. The rewards were extremely generous. Other than the reputation and glory rewards, the experience points allowed everyone to level up. The attributes of the God Slayer title were also quite strong. As Wang Yu had obtained the God Slayer title before, his title had become True God Slayer. His attributes had also doubled. In order to eliminate the suspicion that the number of words was fake, I won't copy the attributes from the previous chapter. It's fine as long as everyone understands it. This author is really a good young man with a conscience. The next thing to do was to loot the equipment. After all, one must not forget one's original intention. Chapter 1464. Oh. Percent? RV? C? R? T? H? H? P? C? H? Dollar? A? G? H? F asterisk CK? H? Dollar? H? P? Dollar? F asterisk CK? Chapter 1468. Wang Yu took a look. It was a red token with a lifelike fire phoenix carved on it. Phoenix token, precious item. Use the spirit of the phoenix to summon the flame monarch, Nevis, at any location. This item had the same function as the Dragon Emperor's token. It was a tool to summon followers. In fact, this could be considered as an explanation to the player. After all, the follower unit of the player was the player's underling. Even if the player was a god boss with extraordinary strength and did not care about the owner, rules were rules. Even if the player did not listen to orders, he still had to listen. The player was the Jade Emperor, the creator of the system. This bit of face had to be given. Of course, Wang Yu was a person who practiced martial arts and had an inexplicable affinity for battles. His usual fights were not even enough for him to fight. Of course, he would not be too concerned about the matter of followers. He just did not like the feeling of being threatened by others. Now that he saw the spirit of the phoenix in his hand, the nature of the threat became a transaction. Wang Yu nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. Sign it. As he spoke, he handed a contract to Nevis. Nevis glanced at it and then signed it to become Wang Yu's follower. At this moment, Grim Reaper's left hand, who had witnessed the whole process, was dumbfounded. This is also possible. Grim Reaper's left hand had never thought that he could get something from a boss like this. This was too wild. Damn, even a boss could be blackmailed. No wonder Chuanjin was overflowing with wealth. This was the difference between them. Wuji patted Grim Reaper's left-hand shoulder and said, "Young man, learn. You still have a long way to go." Oof. Nevis coldly snorted and glared at Wuji. With a wave of his hand, they were teleported out of the Instance dungeon and arrived at the Divine Flame mining area. The people from the Quanjin sect and the Netherworld King's realm, who had died and left the dungeon, excitedly surrounded them. However, when they saw Nevis, they were all stunned and said in horror, "What's going on? Everyone, don't be afraid." Wuji waved his hand and explained, "She's now Old Cow's follower, so she won't be harmed too much." However, before Wuji could finish speaking, Nifis raised his hand and pointed. A death ray shot at Wuji's head. Wuji was killed on the spot. F*CK. Everyone was so scared that they scattered in all directions. Wang Yu glared at Nephi in surprise and said, "What do you want to do?" "None of your business." Nephirus glared back at Wang Yu. With a wave of his hand, he opened a spatial rift and disappeared in front of everyone. Everyone had been scared out of their wits by Nephius. Looking at the place where Nephius had disappeared, no one dared to take half a step forward for a long time. "Damn it, that woman killed me." In the channel, Wuji was so angry that he stomped his feet and cursed. It couldn't be helped. Even if Wuji knew the resurrection spell, he didn't have time to use it just now. He was instantly sent back to the city. It wasn't easy for him to reach level 55 and learn new skills. In the end, he returned to level 54 because he lost 1/10 of his experience. "Serves you right. Who asked you to be so smug?" Mingdu and Bao San sent a despising emoji. After completing the Instance dungeon, everyone had gained a lot. Next, they followed Wang Yu back to the tavern in Yamatai City to turn in the quest. The quest reward was proportional to the difficulty of the quest. This time's difficulty was higher than an S-rank quest. The quest reward was self-evident. After Wang Yu turned in the quest, everyone received a large amount of experience and reputation as a reward. At the same time, everyone received a skill book. Everyone who didn't get anything in the Instance dungeon also received a reward. It seemed that the tavern owner had invested a lot of money. "What skill do you have?" As soon as he received the reward, Mingdu went up to Bao San and asked, "Sword draw. What about you?" Bao San asked, "I'm not telling you." Mingdu shook his head proudly as he was punched to the ground by Bao San. Wang Yu also received a skill book called Martial God's Kick. Martial God's Kick. When using the skill, roar and stomp on the ground, causing enemies within the absorption range to fall to the ground or become stiff. Then, the enemy will be sucked to the side. Then, the user will gather all the strength in the body to deliver the strongest kick to the enemy. At the same time, the user will be in a super armor state, unable to move or be grabbed. Cooldown, 60 seconds. From the introduction, Martial God's Kick and Shadow Chain Kick were skills of the same level. Although the skill's power was slightly weaker than Shadow Chain Kick, and the user couldn't move when using it, it had a good control effect. It was also a good damage output skill. If used together with Shadow Chain Kick, 2 kicks with an explosive effect could probably deal millions of damage. "Young man," just as Wang Yu was admiring his new skill introduction, the tavern owner suddenly smiled. "Do you know about Flaming Heart?" "Oh." Wang Yu was slightly stunned and immediately asked, "Why? You have another mission for me?" No, the tavern owner said, "But if you have Flaming Heart, give it to me and I'll give you a skill." "Oh." Wang Yu didn't pay attention to the tavern owner. In fact, Flaming Heart was in Wang Yu's hands. But looking at the tavern owner's expression, Wang Yu could tell that Flaming Heart was an extremely valuable item. After all, it was something that dropped by Nephisto, so its grade was definitely not low. Such a precious item in exchange for a skill. Wang Yu wasn't as pure as he was when he first entered the game. "If you have it, you have to give it to me." The tavern owner saw that Wang Yu wasn't speaking, and thought that Wang Yu didn't have Flaming Heart, so he went to harass the others. After clearing the Instance dungeon, Hades and Xuanjin ended their temporary cooperation. Overall, it was a very pleasant cooperation. After exchanging greetings for a while, the Netherworld King's group was about to leave when another announcement sounded in the sky. Under the leadership of players 5 Lakes 4 Seas, the 9 States battle team has opened up a channel in the Essel Mountains that has been blocked for thousands of years, connecting the Heroes continent and the West Yuan continent. Their glorious deeds will forever be recorded in the annals of history. Dao Xue was surprised to see the system announcement. What does this announcement mean? You don't understand? To place one's pride curled his lips. It's just opening up a passage between the European server and the local server. What's so great about that? We're the first to open up a route. So the European players can come to the local server in the future? Dao Xue asked again. Isn't that obvious? To place one's pride was speechless. Dao Xue, you're not yourself today. Are you stupid? No, I'm fine. Dao Xue said in a panic. Everyone, have fun. I have something to do and have to go offline for a few days. After saying that, famous sword Dao Xue went offline in a hurry. Is this kid crazy? Mingdu frowned. Why is he like a dog chasing him? Chapter 1469. The Hidden Instance dungeon was cleared, Nephisto's seal was lifted, and the Flame Monarch's clone in the Godly Flame mining area also disappeared. Without the Flame Monarch's clone, the Godly Flame mining area finally turned from unobtainable to a land of treasures. Flame ore was an ore rich in fire elements, and its value was much higher than normal ores. Evildoers Run Wild was also generous. Seeing that Wang Yu and the others had really cleared out the mining area, they signed a contract with Wuji with a wave of their hand. They directly transferred tens of thousands of miners from other main cities to mine, and Xuanjin would collect 10% of the revenue as tax. To move unhindered forces, Wuji was naturally trustworthy. To move unhindered forces aside from the fact that Blood Alliance was stationed in Saga City, Black Dragon Guild would not dare to obstruct them. To move unhindered forces in Yamatai, they could rest easy and count their money in peace. Everyone from Xuanjin returned to Yu Huicheng with peace of mind. Compared to the poor and remote Yamatai, Yu Huicheng's life was much more comfortable. Everyone from Xuanjin had a high fixed income, and every day they fought dungeons to level up. Occasionally, they would snatch bosses to relax. It was truly a godly life. However, ever since famous sword Dao Xue went offline that day, it had been nearly half a month, and he had yet to appear. This surprised everyone from Xuanjin. It was just to understand the market. Did he have to go offline for half a month? Could it be that the European server's economic system had collapsed? Yu Huicheng, Han's Tavern. Wuji sat in the most conspicuous position, with Chun Xiang and the others beside him. Who else has not been notified for this meeting? Wuji tilted his head and asked Chun Xiang, "Don't you know how to read it yourself?" Chun Xiang was very dissatisfied with Wuji's attitude as a boss. He pointed at the table and said, "Other than Old Cow, Dao Xue, and 2 ladies, everyone is here." "Old Cow, where did this grandson go?" Wuji raised his eyebrows and asked. "I went offline to accompany my wife." Everyone was very clear about Wang Yu's whereabouts. This guy only did 2 things every day: go online to play games and go offline to play. Yes, accompany his wife. It was a very regular routine. F***CK. He's been absent a few times already, Wuji said angrily. Yeah, do you have a problem with that? Everyone asked provocatively. That. Wuji quickly changed the topic. Huh, why isn't old Meng around? She said that she would feel uncomfortable for a few days every month. To place one's pride, raised his hand. Bullsh***, Wuji said. She has been uncomfortable for dozens of days this month. Mobile blood bank? Where is Sister Qingxue? Baosan calmly said. When I came, I saw her shopping with Death's left hand on 2nd Trade Road. F***CK. Wuji clenched his fists and said viciously, "Damn the Death God's left hand. If I have the time, I will definitely wipe out Blood Alliance." Agreed. Support. Push. Everyone from Xuanjin nodded in unison, full of anger. After cursing, Wuji's mood was much better. He asked again, "Did you call Dao Xue? What's going on recently?" He said it's family business. He didn't say anything specific, Chun Xiang said. Hey, this bastard. Wuji curled his lips. I thought he was a normal person. Turns out he's just like you guys, a weird guy. Everyone was furious. "We are weird guys, and you are the leader of weird guys, you old dog." Creak. Just as the people from Chuanjin were cursing each other, the door of the tavern opened, and a group of weird players walked in. The leader was a gray-skinned orc player. He glanced at the people from Chuanjin and suddenly asked in broken Mandarin, "Excuse me, do you know where the people from Chuanjin are?" Hearing the words of the players, the people from Chuanjin quieted down. They were excited. Meow. Could it be that Chuanjin was already famous all over the world? Even the people from a European server knew about them. From their accents, it was not difficult to tell that this group of players came from the European server. They did not know their purpose, but the cautious people from Chuanjin were naturally very vigilant and would not admit it rashly. "I've heard of them. Why are you looking for them?" Wuji was the boss after all. He smiled and asked calmly. "Our boss is looking for them for business," the gray orc said. As he spoke, the gray orc stood to the side. "Boss." The people from Chuanjin hurriedly looked behind the gray orc. An extremely beautiful black-haired lady was sitting on a seat at the door, looking at them indifferently. Although the lady looked indifferent and even a little friendly, she gave off a feeling of superiority, making it difficult for people to get close to her. However, seeing that the other party was a woman, the people from Chuanjin relaxed their guard. "Business? Huh?" Wuji said with a smile. "Obviously, we are Chuanjin. May I know why you are looking for us?" The lady glanced at Wuji and asked, "You are?" "I'm the leader of Chuanjin, Wuji. They are my good-for-nothing underlings." Wuji extended his hand and introduced himself. "Good-for-nothing? Underlings?" The people from Chuanjin clenched their fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. If it were not for the presence of outsiders, Wuji would have been dead by now. "How do you do, Leader Wuji?" The lady did not get up, nor did she have the intention to shake hands with Wuji. Instead, she said indifferently, "I have an old friend in Chuanjin. I hope you can hand her over. I will reward you handsomely." "An old friend?" Wuji looked around in bewilderment and asked, "Do any of you know her?" "I don't." Everyone shook their heads and said, "If I knew such a beautiful lady, why would I hang out with you bunch of single dogs?" "I'm sorry," Wuji said with a smile. "It seems that we don't have an old friend here. I wonder if you're looking for a man or a woman. I can help you ask around." "A man," the lady replied expressionlessly. The moment the lady said that, the people from Chuanjin were shocked. A beautiful lady with an imposing manner came to Chuanjin to look for a man. Why did this plot sound so familiar? They did not even need to think to know who she was looking for. "It seems that you know who I'm looking for." Seeing the expressions of the people from Chuanjin, the lady narrowed her eyes and said slowly, "Hand him over, and I will reward you handsomely." "Lady, I advise you to go back," Chun Xiang said earnestly. "As someone who has been through it, I can tell you clearly that a melon that is forcibly picked won't be sweet. Besides, he already has a wife. What's the point of you pestering him? Marry." Sure enough, it was another lady looking for a husband. Hearing Chun Xiang's words, the lady's expression suddenly darkened. She stared at Chun Xiang and asked, "When?" "Almost a year." Chun Xiang wiped his sweat and said, "Very good." The lady narrowed her eyes and said, "Tell me, where is he?" Chun Xiang was speechless. "Hey, don't you understand Chinese?" Forcibly picked. Chapter 1470. There were no good-tempered people in Chuanjin. Although Chun Xiang looked like a good person, that was only to his own people. Not just anyone could give him a hard time. Seeing the lady's unyielding attitude, the amiable smile on Chun Xiang's face immediately disappeared. He said expressionlessly, "I won't speak." "Good." The lady's lips curled up slightly, revealing a mocking expression. Then she calmly snapped her fingers and said to the gray orc in front of her, "Kill them until they speak." "Yes, Lady Meng Shi." The orc respectfully nodded to the lady, called Meng Shi, then pointed at the Chuanjin people and said to the others, "Kill them. F***CK." Hearing the lady and the orc's words, the Chuanjin people were both shocked and angry. They were shocked because these two bastards were really ruthless. They killed people as they pleased, as if it was as insignificant as crushing an ant. Such unreasonable fellows were even worse than the Chuanjian people. After all, Chuanjian people had to find a reason to kill people to convince themselves. He was angry because this group of people in front of him actually treated the Chuanjian sect as an insignificant ant. The Chuanjian sect had been in the gaming circle for so many years, and they didn't have any infamy. However, no one had ever dared to look down on them like this. Not to mention that they were in Afterglow City, the Chuanjian sect's territory. Clang! The Chuanjian people pulled out their weapons and stood up without saying a word. Chun Xiang also raised a staff under the protection of Yin Lao Air Shield and started chanting a dark barrier at the people in front of him. Gravity! Unexpectedly, the gray-skinned orc smiled and raised his right hand lightly. The surrounding tables and chairs all floated in the air. Then he waved his hand forward slightly. Instantly, all the tables and chairs in the air surrounded Chun Xiang from all directions. Whoosh! Whoosh! With a series of chaotic sounds, Chun Xiang was directly smashed to the ground by the tables and chairs. As everyone knew, the tables and chairs in the tavern were all certified by the system. They were famous for breaking with a touch. With so many tables and chairs falling on Chun Xiang, the consequences were self-evident. The tavern owner teleported to Chun Xiang's side and grabbed his clothes. Lord Chun Xiang, we are a small business. Dark Boundary was a spell that took a long time to cast. Chun Xiang was first smashed to the ground, and then he was entangled by the tavern owner, so the spell was forcibly terminated. The Quanjin people at the back were dumbfounded when they saw that Chun Xiang had been defeated in a single round. Although Chun Xiang wasn't as monstrous as Wang Yu, he was still one of Chuanjin's top fighters. Furthermore, he was Chuanjin's most reliable controller. His strength was so high that he could even put up a fight against professional players. But now, he was actually defeated in one move by an ordinary-looking beastman. Who was this guy? At this moment, Wuji cried out in horror, "Gravity Warlock! You're locked by." "Huh?" The beastman was taken aback for a moment before he smiled and said, "I didn't expect someone from the hero's continent to know me." "Locked by." Seeing that the beastman didn't deny it, not only Wuji, but the rest of Chuanjin's expressions immediately turned serious. Lock Bai was a famous figure in the online gaming circle. He was known as the esports magician. His strength was second to none in the European server, and he was a top-notch expert who could be compared to experts from all over the world. As a holographic simulation online game, Rebirth's gameplay had undergone a huge change from playing with a mouse to playing with one's own body. Many of the top-notch experts in the past had become ordinary. However, not only did Lock Bai's strength not decrease, but he had also become even stronger than before. He had also changed his occupation to a hidden branch of Gravity Warlock. His gravity spell was superb, and he was the most famous in the entire European server. The rest of Quan Zhan's understanding of Lock Bai was still stuck in the era of keyboard and mouse online games. However, Wuji had mixed into the European server during the closed beta test, so he naturally understood Lock Bai's strength better than others. He didn't expect this lady named Meng Shi to be so capable that she could actually make Lock Bai work for her. It seemed like they had really met a tough opponent this time. Of course, these guys from Chuanjin were not weaklings. Seeing that the opponent was so difficult to deal with, everyone became 120% vigilant. As the saying goes, to shoot a person, first shoot his horse. To scold a person, first curse his mother. With a master like Lock Bai around, everyone naturally wouldn't target anyone else. Wuji immediately ordered, "Kill Lock Bai first. Frontline, restrain him." Following Wuji's order, Yin Lao Air raised a shield and rushed in front of Lock Bai. Then, he used taunt on Lock Bai. Lock Bai didn't panic. He made a grabbing motion with his left hand and pulled the warrior teammate who had rushed over to protect him in front of him. Yin Lao Air's taunt naturally fell on the warrior. Duong. The warrior replaced Lock Bai and was knocked unconscious by Yin Lao Air's shield. However, a smile appeared on Yin Lao Air's face. Seeing the smile on Yin Lao Air's face, Lock Bai was slightly stunned. At the same time, there was a thunderclap. A golden thunderbolt as thick as a bucket smashed towards Lock Bai from above. No matter how fast Lockbai's casting speed was, he was still a mage. At this time, Lockbai had just finished casting a spell and was in a casting stun. It was too late for him to dodge the thunderbolt in the sky. But just when everyone thought that Lockbai was going to be killed by Mingdu's thunderbolt, a golden circle appeared on top of Lockbai and Yinlao Air's heads at the same time. Mingdu's thunderbolt smashed into the circle above Lockbai's head and then landed on top of Yinlao Air's head. Boom! The thunderbolt solidly bypassed Yinlao Air's shield and smashed into Yinlao Air's head. A shield was a weapon, and its defensive mechanism was different from armor. As long as it didn't block the attack, it had no defensive effect. -12447-1A blood red damage number floated above Yinlao Air's head, and Yinlao Air was smashed to a pulp on the spot. Lockbai escaped death and took a few steps back. The figure of a red-clothed magician appeared behind him. Spatial magic. Seeing this scene, the eyeballs of the Chuanjin members almost fell out of their sockets. Spatial magic. They didn't expect their opponent to have a hidden mage class. Spatial magician. Seeing the damage number above Yinlao Air's head, Lockbai and the others were shocked. Damn, this magician's damage was too high. It had to be known that Yinlao Air had many passive skills that could heal and increase defense. They would be triggered when his HP reached 30%. Now that Yinlao Air was in a full state and had been smashed to a pulp, one could imagine how high Mingdu's magic damage was. Chapter 1471. It was obvious that the Beastman warrior was not weak either. Not only was his roll on the ground clean and neat, but it was also very well hidden. He actually used Yinlao's body to block the Chuanjin sect's rear line of sight. Fortunately, Chun Xiang, who was next to him, immediately warned, "Second brother, be careful to the left." Yinlao Air had already been stunned by Mingdu's lightning. When he heard Chun Xiang shout, he subconsciously turned his head and raised his shield. Clang! The Beastman warrior's spear stabbed Yinlao Air's shield, forcing Yinlao Air to take 2 steps back. At the same time, an arrow flew towards Yinlao Air's face and exploded Yinlao Air's head. Yinlao Air turned into light on the spot. Lockbai's attraction spell could easily interrupt the target's spells, and his casting speed was extremely fast, completely restraining Chun Xiang. With a spatial mage around, Mingdu didn't dare to cast spells again. Now that Yinlao Air was gone, Chuanjin had lost its last barrier. Second brother, go. To place one's pride, cover. Wuji casually gave Bao San an invincible buff before giving another order. After Wuji gave the order, 2 silhouettes flew out. To place one's pride, and Bao San rushed to the front of the team. To place one's pride used a flurry kick towards Lockbai. The mage behind Lockbai didn't panic and drew a circle with his staff. To place one's pride suddenly appeared in front of a golden teleportation gate. Ah! To place one's pride screamed and kicked the gate. At the same time, a teleportation gate also appeared behind Mingdu. Mingdu was still looking for the other side of the teleportation gate, but who would have thought that the teleportation gate would appear behind him? To place one's pride was caught off guard and kicked him in the back. Bang! To place one's pride kicked Mingdu into a ball of white light. To place one's pride was baffled when he saw himself jumping back to the team in a daze. He asked Wuji beside him, "What's going on? Did Locke die for nothing? Where's Mingdu?" To place one's pride's 3 consecutive questions, Wuji helplessly replied, "You were just sent back and killed Mingdu with a kick." F***CK. To place one's pride was depressed. At this time, Bao San took advantage of the fact that the magician and Lockbai were focused on to place one's pride. He had already bypassed the orc's interception, withstood the attacks of the archers, and arrived near the 2 of them. His figure flashed, and he activated triple slash. He moved in front of Lockbai in an instant and raised his sword. Lockbai reached out and grabbed a table in front of him to block the attack. Crash! The table was smashed by Bao San. The tavern owner instantly appeared behind Bao San and grabbed Bao San, who was in the middle of triple slash. The spatial magician pointed his staff at Bao San and drew a circle in the air. The space around Bao San distorted, and a teleportation gate appeared in front of him, swallowing his upper body. Then the magician put his hands together, and the teleportation gate closed. Bao San was directly cut in half at the waist. He turned into a white light and disappeared in front of everyone. F***CK. Chun Xiang and Wu Ji's faces turned pale when they saw how powerful the spatial magician was. Everyone had seen many heroic classes. Although they were stronger than the regular classes, the difference between them still depended on their control. The spatial magician was the only heroic class that didn't need to look at their control. Just by looking at their class attributes, it was obvious that they were much stronger than the other classes. Wu Ji, do we still have to go and die? Just when everyone was shocked by the strength of their opponents, a message from Mingdu and the others came from Chuanjin's guild channel. In just a few rounds, Chuanjin had lost nearly half of their members. The strength of the players on the other side was beyond everyone's imagination. Against such opponents, even if they killed their way back from the resurrection point, they would still be sending themselves to die. Of course, they were all brothers. At this time, whether they should go offline or continue to die, they had to ask their boss for his opinion. No need, Wu Ji replied. Everyone, let's go offline. The opponent this time isn't someone we could defeat. After receiving Wu Ji's order, Mingdu and the others didn't waste any more time and went offline without another word. After all, if they could win, they would fight. If they couldn't, they would run. This had always been Chuanjin's style. How is it? Seeing Chuanjin and the others being beaten up by her subordinates, the girl called Ming, she wasn't surprised at all. She continued to ask Chun Xiang indifferently, "Can you tell me now?" Chun Xiang looked back at Meng Shi and said, "If you want to kill, hurry up and do it. I'm waiting to go offline and sleep. I don't have the time to waste with you." Seeing that Chun Xiang was so stubborn, Meng Shi frowned and said, "I just want to know where he is. Don't force me, Jeff." At this point, Meng Shi called out to the spatial magician. The spatial magician nodded and drew a circle. A teleportation door appeared above Chun Xiang's head. "Wait!" Seeing that Chun Xiang was about to follow in Bao San's footsteps, Wu Ji suddenly shouted, "If you kill us, you won't know where the person you're looking for is." "It's okay," Meng Shi said. "Yu Huicheng is very big. I don't believe that everyone is like you." "What if others don't say?" Wu Ji asked. "Then we'll kill until they say it." Meng Shi's expression was still indifferent. "Fine, I can't tell that this little girl is a vicious and merciless person. She has already made plans to massacre the entire city." What exactly did Wang Yu do in the past to be able to force such a beautiful girl into such a state? Looks like we can't come to an agreement, but we don't want to die either. Wu Ji rubbed his chin and said, "I have a way to compromise. Tell me what it is." Meng Shi raised her eyelids and looked at Wu Ji. Wu Ji smiled and said, "You die." Before Wu Ji finished speaking, the ground behind Meng Shi suddenly loosened. North Sea Yu jumped out from the ground and stabbed at Meng Shi's back. However, without waiting for North Sea Yu to stab Meng Shi, Lock Bai raised both of his hands. North Sea Yu seemed to have been lifted up by someone and was strangely suspended in the air. No matter how hard he tried to stab forward, he couldn't stab Meng Shi at all. At the same time, a big guy beside Meng Shi stretched out his arm and grabbed the back of North Sea Yu's neck, directly grabbing North Sea Yu. Then, he ruthlessly smashed her into the ground. Boom! North Sea Yu smashed a large hole in the ground. That big guy followed up with a foot and stepped on North Sea Yu in a white light. Hee. Meng Shi squinted her eyes and said, "Sect leader Wu Ji, is this your idea? I hope you won't do such a childish thing again. My subordinates are different from you small fries. They aren't people you can handle." Saying that, Meng Shi glanced behind Wu Ji. Seeing that, Wu Ji hurriedly turned around, only to see the air behind him distort and a beastman appear behind him. Seeing that beastman assassin, Wu Ji turned pale with fright. Chapter 1472. Ha ha ha. Seeing the assassin behind him, Wu Ji laughed out loud. "Lady, you're amazing. I'm impressed. And are you going to say it or not?" Mengshi continued to stare at Wuji expressionlessly. About this, can you allow us to discuss it? Wuji requested. Sure. Mengshi nodded and extended her hand. You guys discuss it, I can wait. Thank you. Wuji cupped his fists towards Mengshi, then hooked his fingers at Chun Xiang and to place one's pride. The two understood and hurriedly moved in front of Wuji. Wuji, old dog, you're not really going to sell Uncle Cow, are you? To place one's pride anxiously roared. I'll sell him if I want to, but not this time. That's right, it's different this time, Chun Xiang nodded. It was a game, so of course it was what made them happy. Normally, everyone would attack and betray each other, so it didn't matter if they died a few times. After all, life wasn't worth much in the game. But this time, it wasn't as simple as death. It was related to real life. How could they disregard the lives of their brothers for the sake of their own survival? If they sold out Wang Yu, they might not even be brothers in the future. Sell your grandpa. Who said we're talking about selling old cow? I'm talking about how we're going to escape, Wuji said angrily. Let's take this chance and retreat. Hearing Wuji's words, Chun Xiang and Manchu were stunned at first, then looked at Wuji in surprise, only to see Wuji staring at them like he was frozen. Seeing Wuji's expression, the two immediately understood and hurriedly pulled out the menu to exit the game. Players could only leave battle for 20 seconds. Since Mengshi agreed to let the three of them discuss it, they couldn't just not give them 20 seconds, right? Of course, it was easy to tell if they were online or not. Mengshi's subordinates were all top-notch experts. In a short period of time, they might not be able to discover the abnormality, but as time passed, they would naturally be able to see that something was wrong. As time passed second by second, Luo Bai frowned as he looked at the motionless Wuji trio. They seemed to have disconnected. Mengshi was startled when she heard that, and immediately said to Wuji, "Hey, have you guys finished discussing?" The three of them replied in silence. Their bodies gradually became transparent and then disappeared from everyone's sight. Bastard! Seeing that, Mengshi immediately understood that she had been tricked and could not help but angrily say, "Humph! What a cunning, despicable, incompetent person." He actually ran away. No. At this time, the spatial magician Jeff said, "It's an expert." Expert? I couldn't tell that they were experts after being beaten up like this by you guys. Mengshi said disdainfully. To be able to escape, he must be an expert. Jeff said confidently. That's right. Lockby also interrupted. Although this group of people looks like a motley crew, they advance and retreat in an orderly manner. Their teamwork is perfect, and each of them is extraordinary. Did you see that magician? His magic damage is the highest I've ever seen. So powerful? Mengshi said in surprise. Then compared to you guys, not worthy. Jeff's answer was simple and clear. Lockby explained. Although these people are strong, for professional players, they are not up to par. In the China server, the only team that can fight against our Templar battle team is 9 Provinces battle team. At this point, Lockby's face showed a unique expression of confidence. Amazing. Mengshi gave Lockby and the others a thumbs up and asked, "Then what should we do now?" Lockby said, "The people from Xuanzhen have been beaten until they are afraid, and they will definitely not come online for a while. However, with so many people around you, Huicheng, someone will definitely know." What do you mean? Ask. Jeff said the answer for Lockby in a simple and clear manner. Mengshi. Who would have thought that this group of people's thinking would be so simple and crude? However, this kind of thing was easier said than done. Mengshi said that she would massacre the city, but in fact, she was just saying it. It was not like no one had not seen how many people there were in Xuanzhen. If Xuanzhen was a big guild, it would be better. After all, big guilds had a lot of exposure, and all of their experts were famous. Who would specially go and find out about a small group like Xuanzhen? Yu Huicheng had hundreds of thousands of people, which was almost the size of a small county. If they really kept asking, who knew how long they would have to find out? This is not reliable, right? It takes so long to ask. Meng, she shook her head. No. Lockby waved his hand and said, "You misunderstood. What I mean is to issue a bounty quest. Let those players who know the person you're looking for find you, and then you can ask." I see. Mengshi said. Where do I issue the quest to? City Lord's Mansion. Lokbai said. Okay, Jeff will do this. Mengshi nodded. Forget about the City Lord's Mansion. Jeff received Mengshi's order and was about to leave. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from the corner. Eh. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a shield warrior sitting in the corner of the tavern. The warrior looked average, and his equipment was okay, but his entire body gave off an aura that deserved a beating. Everyone could understand this. As a shield warrior, this was what he needed. However, when Mengshi saw the shield warrior's appearance, she felt very uneasy. She frowned and said, How long have you been here? Sorry, I unintentionally heard your conversation. Hearing Mengshi's question, the warrior grinned cheekily and said, I've been here ever since you guys came in. I didn't expect you guys to be so strong. You actually wiped out the Chuanjin sect so easily. Mengshi ignored the warrior's compliments and asked with a cold face, Who are you? I am Big Bear Wait for me. You can call me Big Bear Wait. The warrior hurriedly replied. After saying that, he didn't forget to flatter him. You must be the team leader. The Chuanjin sect has been wreaking havoc in Yuhui City for a long time. Even the people of Yuhui City can't do anything about them. Yet, all of you were able to casually beat up that group of scum. It's really an eye-opener for me. If you don't mind, we can add enough. Big Bear Wait for me was just about to add him as a friend when she impatiently waved her hand. You just said forget about the City Lord's Mansion. What do you mean? You don't know. Big Bear Wait for me said. Our City Lord of Yu Huicheng is from Chuanjin. You guys go to the City Lord's Mansion to issue the quest. Oh, Mengshi was slightly surprised. Your City Lord is actually such a person? It can't be helped. Big Bear sighed and said, There are no heroes in time. If you had come a few months earlier, it would be hard to say who the City Lord would be. All right, who in the Chuanjin sect are you looking for? His name is Jian Daoxue. Do you know him? Mengshi asked. Chapter 1473. Oh, Mengshi raised her eyebrows and said, Really? Of course. Big Bear said, Chuanjin is notorious in Yuhuicheng. That Sword Daoxue is a professional businessman. He must have cheated you of a lot of money. I personally hate people like him. Stop talking nonsense. Mengshi said impatiently. Tell me, where is he now? About this. Big Bear, who was talking nonstop, immediately stopped when he heard this question and said indifferently, This, I really can't tell you. Oomph. Do you think I don't dare to kill you? Mengshi stared at Big Bear and said, No, of course not. Big Bear and the others hurriedly said, You even dared to kill Chuanjin, so naturally you won't dare to kill me. However, if I tell you, Chuanjin won't let me go. You mean that we are inferior to Chuanjin? Mengshi asked. That's not what I mean. Big Bear explained. No matter how strong you are still foreigners. At most, you can kill me a few times. Chuanjin is a local, and one of them is the City Lord. If I offend them, I won't be able to stay in Yuhuicheng. I would rather die a few times than not be able to play games. That makes sense. Mengshi nodded and said, Then what will make you say it? Big Bear thought for a moment and said, That Chuanjin can cover the sky in Yuhuicheng. You are not familiar with this place. Even if I tell you where Sword Daoxue is, you won't be able to catch him. We, sword pointing to the sky, have some power in Yuhuicheng. I think we should be able to cooperate. If you think it is feasible, I will inform my boss and we can sit down and talk. Cooperation? Mengshi was startled, then asked the people around her, What do you think? Cooperation? Jeff nodded. Locke rolled his eyes at Big Bear and said, This person is right. Killing people is easy for us, but chasing someone in such a big city is a bit difficult. We can cooperate. Indeed, killing someone required strength, and pursuing someone required manpower. Moreover, everyone had experienced how slippery and merciless Chuanjin guys were. Just now, when Lokbai and his men blocked Chuanjin in the tavern, 3 of them managed to escape, not to mention the whole city chasing after them. Chuanjin was a local. Outsiders were unfamiliar with the place. If they really wanted to chase after him, they might not even be able to touch Chuanjin's shadow. Seeing that Lokbai and Jeff had agreed to cooperate, Mengshi nodded and said, we can cooperate. That's great. Big Bear and the others were overjoyed. There are too many people here. Would you like to follow me to the guild encampment of Sword in the Heavens? Don't tell me you're with Chuanjin. Mengshi glanced at him and asked cautiously. She then said, even if we're together, it doesn't matter. Someone of Chuanjin's level can become your city lord. We can kill Chuanjin like slaughtering chickens and dogs. Killing you guys is as easy as flipping our hands. Of course. Big Bear and the others wiped his sweat and said, everyone wait a moment, let me greet our guild leader. After saying that, Big Bear and the others sent a message to Don't Shoot Captain. Boss, guess what I just saw? You saw a girl bathing? Don't Shoot Captain replied immediately. His words were filled with vulgarity. It's 100,000 times more exciting than this. Big Bear said excitedly. Oh, you entered the female bathhouse? He didn't know what kind of image Don't Shoot Captain usually had in Big Bear's eyes. When he talked to him, Don't Shoot Captain would always talk about girls. What female bathhouse? Big Bear said. The people of Chuanjin were slaughtered. Don't Shoot Captain said calmly. I thought it was something exciting. It's not common for people to die in the game. But just as he said this, he suddenly reacted and said in surprise, what? Who were slaughtered? Chuanjin. Big Bear and the others said confidently. Chuanjin. Hearing these 3 words, Don't Shoot Captain was stunned for a full 3 to 4 seconds before replying. What the heck? How many divisions did they send? How many of them were killed? Why didn't I hear any movement? TSK. Needless to say, Yu Huicheng had been here for a long time. Don't Shoot Captain didn't know how much of a trauma he had in Chuanjin. When he heard that Chuanjin's people had been killed, his instinctive reaction was that the other side must have sent quite a number of people. If not, for Yu Huicheng, killing this group of bastards was no easier than fighting a boss alone. What movement are you listening for? Big Bear and the others said they only sent 7 people. Other than old dog Wuji, old thief Chun Xiang, and that little brat who cheated and went offline, the others in Chuanjin were all killed. Oh, how many of them died? Don't Shoot Captain asked in surprise. Died? They completely crushed them. Big Bear said. They weren't even injured. What the heck? Are you sure? Hearing Big Bear and the others say this, Don't Shoot Captain was completely shocked. One must know that Sword Points to the Heavens had so many people surrounding Chuanjin, but they were still beaten up. Just 7 people were able to wipe out Chuanjin, and they weren't even injured. What the heck? Don't Shoot Captain was starting to suspect that Big Bear and the others were hallucinating. No, Big Bear and the others said, these people are in the bar. I stopped them. These are ruthless people who can deal with Chuanjin. With their help, won't it be easy for you to become the city lord? Hearing that they were going to deal with Chuanjin, Don't Shoot Captain was conflicted again. After all, Don't Shoot Captain had personally witnessed Chuanjin's strength. The psychological shadow that Wang Yu brought to Don't Shoot Captain still lingered. As long as Chuanjin was there, Don't Shoot Captain always felt deterred. At this moment, suddenly saying that they were going to deal with Chuanjin, Don't Shoot Captain was naturally a little confused. After hesitating for a moment, Don't Shoot Captain said, I am the city lord, but Chuanjin isn't that easy to deal with. I know, Big Bear said. Didn't we meet people who can suppress Chuanjin? Otherwise, I wouldn't have mentioned this. They agreed to cooperate with us. But, mentioning Chuanjin, Don't Shoot Captain still faintly felt a little uneasy. Big Bear and the others said anxiously, Boss, listen to me. There aren't many people who can suppress Chuanjin. If you miss this opportunity, you won't get it again. You have to grasp this opportunity. As the saying goes, opportunities don't come again. Originally, Don't Shoot Captain was still conflicted about whether or not to do this. However, Big Bear's words hit Don't Shoot Captain's weak spot. Sword Points to the Heavens wasn't just Chuanjin, there was also Blood Alliance. Chapter 1474. Leader Don't Shoot? Was he afraid of Chuanjin? Yes, that was for sure. After all, Finger the Heavens was the only guild that Yu Huicheng had provoked Chuanjin. Not only was it suppressed by Wang Yu, it was also extorted by Wuji. If he said that he wasn't afraid of Chuanjin leader Don't Shoot, he he probably wouldn't believe it. However, compared to Chuanjin, Leader Don't Shoot was more afraid that the guild that he had spent so much money to build up wouldn't have a chance to shine. Why do people create guilds in the game? Was it really to have a group of united brothers that wouldn't be bullied? Don't be silly. That was just the thoughts of normal players. In terms of unity, the bigger the guild, the less the players cared about unity. On the contrary, small groups would form groups and stay together. Everyone played guilds for the sake of conquering the world. This was the goal of Leader Don't Shoot. No one was born invincible. If it was just because the opponent was too strong and they lost the confidence to fight back after losing a few times, then what was the point of playing? They should just disband. This chance was hard to come by. If they gave it up, then they really wouldn't be able to raise their heads in the future. One had to know that the reason why Blood Alliance could suppress Finger the Heavens was because they were close to Chuanjin. If they wiped out Chuanjin this time, Blood Alliance naturally wouldn't be worth mentioning. Thinking about that, Leader Don't Shoot said, "Okay, then let them come over. I will wait for you in the office." "Okay, I understand." Big Bear nodded his head and waved towards Meng Shi and the others. "Let's go." After saying that, Big Bear brought the group of people out of the tavern. A few minutes later, Meng Shi and the others arrived at Finger the Heavens' office. In the office, not only was Leader Don't Shoot, there was also Blood Wolf, Blood Rain, and other pro players. It was obvious that Leader Don't Shoot was a more cautious person. He had deep suspicions about someone being able to easily wipe out Chuanjin. Of course, Leader Don't Shoot was able to be the boss, so his EQ was quite high. Naturally, he wouldn't question it face to face, so he called a bunch of experts over to verify it. Compared to Big Bear, Don't Shoot believed in Blood Rain and the others' professionalism. "Everyone, this is our guild leader, Don't Shoot." As soon as they entered the office, Big Bear and the others took the lead and walked over to Captain Don't Shoot's side, introducing him to Meng Shi and the others. "Greetings, experts. I've heard a lot about you." Hearing that, Captain Don't Shoot immediately walked forward to shake hands with Meng Shi. However, Meng Shi only nodded her head and casually glanced at Captain Don't Shoot. Then, she began to size up the decorations of the office. She had no intention of shaking hands with Captain Don't Shoot. As for the others, they looked at their captain arrogantly, as if they were looking at a clown. Captain Don't Shoot wasn't someone who would lower his voice. Seeing Meng Shi's arrogance, he was naturally extremely unhappy. He asked Big Brother Xiong in the channel, "Are they the ones who destroyed Chuanjin?" "That's right. It's them. I saw it with my own eyes." Big Bear swore solemnly. "Is that so?" "It doesn't look like it." The captain was a little doubtful. At this moment, Blood Rain asked, "Were their names?" "Names?" Hearing Blood Rain's question, Big Brother Xiong and the others were slightly stunned. "Meow. I was too excited that I didn't even know the names of these brothers." Thus, Big Brother Xiong quickly turned his head and asked, "What are your names?" When Lokbai and the others heard Big Brother Xiong's question, they had a look of helplessness. They thought that Big Brother Xiong had heard of their names before seeking them to cooperate. They didn't expect that this kid didn't even know who they were. The feeling was like someone told Uncle Nyo, "I really like your book. What's your name again?" One look, and you could tell that he was a pirate. Lokbai and the others were not nobodies like Uncle Nyo. They would be extremely excited if someone liked their book. They were all top-notch experts among professional experts. Naturally, they couldn't be bothered to pay attention to such ignorant people. Big Brother Xiong and the others thought that Lokbai didn't understand Chinese. They arrogantly used the only English they knew and stuttered, "What the F asterisk CK?" It seemed that even if they were beastmen, Big Brother Xiong could tell that these guys weren't Chinese. Seeing Big Brother Xiong's awkward communication, Meng Shi couldn't stand it anymore. She said impatiently, "He understands what you're saying. He's called Lokbai. The others are his subordinates." Lokbai, Big Brother Xiong, and Don't Shoot rubbed their chin when they heard this name. "Huh, this name sounds familiar. Have you heard of him before?" As they spoke, the two turned their heads and asked Blood Rain. However, at this moment, Blood Rain and the others were all dumbfounded. "Lo, Lokbai." After being stunned for a few seconds, Fist of the Heaven exclaimed, "That Lokbai from Team Templar?" After all, they were professional experts. They knew all the experts in the country like the back of their hands. Lockby only needed to say his name, and these people from Fist of the Heaven were able to tell Lockby's background. Team Templar? Hearing this team's name, even Don't Shoot and Big Brother Xiong, who weren't that familiar with the professional circle, were slightly stunned. Because the names of foreign experts were quite difficult to pronounce. As long as the local players weren't die-hard fans, most of them wouldn't know their names. However, they could still remember the team's name very clearly. Team Templar was a super team that was ranked in the top 5 in the international rankings. Their results in the European server were also perennially at the top. Ordinary players couldn't reach this height. They might instinctively think that they were only ranked in the top 5 in the international rankings. How strong could they be? However, the more expert a player was, the more they knew the value of an international ranking. Was Team 9 Provinces strong? It was a super team that completely surpassed the standards of all the professional teams in the country. Even with such results, the number of times they had won the international championship was limited. Currently, they were only ranked in the top 3. Even so, Team 9 Provinces didn't dare to say that they had a 100% chance of winning against Team Templar. Just think about it. Not to mention a team that could win against Team 9 Provinces, there wasn't even a single team that could be on par with Team 9 Provinces. Don't mention Chuanjin. Although Chuanjin had won the professional league this time, the standard of Chuanjin's players was still obvious to everyone. There were only a few people who could reach the level of a professional player. The others were still some distance away from the level of a second-rate professional player. The reason they could win the matches was mainly because of some objective factors. However, in terms of strength, the Quanjin sect was still far from being able to compete with them. After all, professional experts were all talented and trained every day. If they were so easily overtaken by a group of unorthodox players, why would they still be a professional team? No wonder this group of people in front of him could beat Chuanjin so easily. It turned out that they were real experts. This time, Chuanjin had kicked a steel plate. Chapter 1475. Team leader Don't Shoot was originally a little worried, but seeing that the people in front of him were world-class experts, team leader Don't Shoot's worry instantly disappeared, replaced by an inexplicable sense of confidence. The worst thing was that you didn't believe in yourself. If you didn't have confidence with a world-class expert, then it wouldn't just be a problem of strength. After knowing their identity, team leader Don't Shoot's mood was as clear as the clouds. He immediately greeted them warmly. So, it's the famous Templar battle team. Quick, please take a seat. Lockby and the others sized up Blood Rain and the others, then sat down leisurely. After everyone sat down, team leader Don't Shoot and Meng Shi said in unison, "Tell us, how much do you want?" After saying that, the two of them froze and looked at each other, their eyes filled with doubt. It could be seen that the two of them weren't lacking in money. At this moment, Big Bear Don't Shoot hurriedly came over and said, Boss Meng, she has a condition for cooperating with us. It's not for money." "Not for money?" Team leader Don't Shoot frowned. "That's not good." Meng Shi also frowned. Her expression was the same as team leader Don't Shoot. In the eyes of the rich, anything that could be solved with money wasn't a problem. "Miss Meng, why are you cooperating with us, Sword in the Heavens?" Team leader Don't Shoot asked cautiously. Meng Shi said indifferently, To find someone. Team leader Don't Shoot was a little conflicted. The game was so big, players could not only teleport back and forth, they could also log off at any time. Finding someone was like finding a needle in a haystack. Big Breast saw team leader Don't Shoot's expression and quickly added, "She's looking for Dao Xue. That brat cheated her money." "Oh." Team leader Don't Shoot understood. "I see. Miss Meng is looking for Chuanjin's Dao Xue." "Yes." Meng Shi nodded. "What about you?" "Me?" "That's right. Since you aren't after money, you wouldn't cooperate with us for no reason, right?" Meng Shi said. "About this." Team leader Don't Shoot thought for a while. "We want Yu Huicheng." "Yu Huicheng? What does that have to do with us?" Meng Shi raised her eyebrows. Meng Shi wasn't someone who liked trouble. If it wasn't to find someone, she probably wouldn't even offend the Quanjin sect. As for the matter of Yu Hui City, she naturally couldn't be bothered to get involved. Mengdong team leader Don didn't shoot was speechless. Indeed, one was looking for a person, while the other was looking for a main city. They were completely unrelated, so how could they cooperate? Meng leader, don't shoot. Big Dom master, don't do of master. Meng T do of is don't like of Don's dare. Of be like T b b b b b comma of me me. T t t t t t dare do T of Don do moo. Him as him of him, T do Don do him as of him. Meng she glanced at the members of the Templar battle team beside her and glanced sideways at Captain Don't Shoot. Do you think I'll be short on money? Captain Don't Shoot, well, he was someone who could make the famous Templar battle team fight for him. He definitely wasn't someone who lacked money. Meng she was obviously a rather arrogant person. Towards the captain not shooting and spending money to hire her, she was very unhappy in her heart and said snappily, "Looks like the two of us have nothing to talk about. Goodbye." Saying that, Meng she stood up and was about to leave. Lady Meng, wait. At this moment, a voice called out to Meng Shi. When Meng Shi heard the voice, she stopped in her tracks and slowly turned around to look at the source of the voice, only to see an archer walking in front of Captain Don't Fire. When the captain saw the archer, he said in surprise, "Boss Bloodrain?" Bloodrain waved his hand, indicating for the captain not to shoot and not speak. He then walked up to Meng Shi and introduced himself. "Hello, Miss Meng. I'm Bloodrain, the captain of Sword in the Firmament. An expert." Without waiting for Meng Shi to reply, Jeff reminded her in the channel. Lockby agreed. "That's right. I've heard of this archer. He's a world-class professional, and he's no weaker than Derek." "Boss, do you need to be so direct?" The orc archer behind Lockby had a depressed look. Hearing the words of Lockby and the others, Meng Shi's expression changed slightly. She sized up Bloodrain and said, "Captain Bloodrain, what can I do for you?" "That." Bloodrain scratched his head and said, "Originally, this is a matter between your bosses. I don't have the right to interrupt, but I feel that it's not impossible for our two families to cooperate." "Oh, say it." Meng Shi looked at Bloodrain with interest and said, "As long as you can convince me, we'll cooperate with you." "I heard that you've already met Chuanjin?" Bloodrain asked with a smile. "That's right." Meng Shi nodded and said, "We've exchanged blows. How do you feel?" Bloodrain asked again. "This bunch of scum. Trash, cowards." Meng Shi gritted her teeth. It was obvious that although the Templar battle team won, they didn't seem very happy about it. Hee. Bloodrain smiled and said, "We live in the same main city as Chuanjin, so it's inevitable that there will be friction. We all know their style." "Style? If you can't beat them, you run?" Meng Shi had a look of disdain. She was very upset that Wuji and the other two had schemed against her. "You can say that," Bloodrain said with certainty. "These people's strength is very average, but they are sinister, cunning, despicable, and shameless. You can let them escape when they clash head-on with you. If these guys wholeheartedly want to hide from you, you probably won't be able to catch them in this lifetime." "Oh," Meng Shi nodded when she heard that. She agreed with Bloodrain's words. At that time, they could let 3 old, weak, and disabled Chuanjin escape. It could be seen that these guys didn't have any other skills, but they were definitely very proficient in escaping. "That's why," Bloodrain immediately said. "Chasing them down isn't realistic at all. Then what do you think I should do?" Meng Shi asked curiously. Hee. Bloodrain laughed and said, "Let them chase you down." "Chase me down?" Meng Shi was dumbfounded. "Do they have the guts?" Bloodrain waved his hand and said, "Don't look down on them. These guys are famous for being sticky candy. They hold a lot of grudges. They don't dare to chase you down because their hatred for you isn't deep enough. If you offend them to death, they won't be able to get rid of you." "Really?" Meng Shi was pleasantly surprised. "What method do you have? Hurry up and tell me." F***CK. Seeing Meng Shi's expression, there was no need to mention what the captain was feeling when he told them not to shoot. In the national server, everyone had good shoes that didn't tread on smelly dog shit. They all stayed as far away from Chuanjin as possible. This girl was so excited when she heard that she could make Chuanjin chase her down. It really was an eye-opener. Chapter 1476. The method is very simple. Seeing Meng Shi's appearance, Blood Rain said indifferently, "Enrage them. Destroy their most important thing for them to see." Most important thing? You mean? Yes. It's Yu Huicheng. Blood Rain said, Yu Huicheng is their lifeblood. If you guys help us snatch Yu Huicheng, what do you think they'll do? Hearing Blood Rain say this, Meng Shi's expression froze, and she immediately became interested. She said with interest, "You mean that as long as we can snatch Yu Huicheng, Chuanjin's people will come after me?" "That's right." Blood Rain nodded in satisfaction and said, "Miss Meng is really smart." One could say that language was an art. It was all about swindling and deceiving. The same meaning came out of Captain Don't Shoot's mouth. This girl wasn't interested at all. Blood Rain's few words made Meng Shi beam with joy. Captain Don't Shoot and the others were dumbstruck. Damn, couldn't tell that Blood Rain, this kid, was pretty good at swindling. Being a professional player was really a waste of talent. Too simple. Meng Shi thought for a moment and said, "But you guys can't help much either. Why should we cooperate with you and let you guys get a main city for free?" Well, it seemed like this girl was very smart. Even though Blood Rain got her entangled, she didn't get confused. She saw through Blood Rain's sinister intentions at a glance. Blood Rain wiped the sweat on his forehead and said, "Miss, don't look down on Chuanjin. If Yu Huicheng wants to find trouble with them, it won't do without our sword pointing to the heavens' help. Because in Yu Huicheng, only our sword pointing to the heavens has the qualifications to rebel against Chuanjin." What Blood Rain said was not wrong. As the city lord, Wang Yu had absolute authority in Yu Huicheng. If one wanted to overthrow Wang Yu's rule, they had to lead a revolt. In the system settings, only a main city's contribution points were higher than the city lord's could they seize power. Needless to say, sword pointing to the heavens was much more competent than Wang Yu. Although Wang Yu was the city lord, he rarely did any main city missions. Although Blood Alliance had a lot of people, they were on the same side as Chuanjin, so naturally, they didn't have any thoughts of taking over the city. They only pointed their swords at the heavens. After taking control of the city, they focused on construction and only cared about GDP. Even if their leader didn't shoot, he was willing to spend money. Currently, Yu Huicheng's city construction rate and popularity were higher than Chuanjin's. Therefore, only Yu Huicheng's sword points to the heavens was qualified to overthrow Wang Yu's rule. Meng Shi clearly did not know much about such matters, so she turned to ask her subordinates from the Templar battle team, "What do you think?" Jeff said confidently, "He's right." The others also nodded in agreement. "What are the conditions?" Meng Shi asked Blood Rain again. Yu Huicheng, Blood Rain's tone, was much more confident than Captain Don't Shoot. "Deal." Meng Shi agreed right away. What kind of logic is this? Captain Don't Shoot and Big Bear all looked at one another. Blood Rain said, "The charm of language." What was negotiation? Negotiation was talking about benefits in your hands and throwing the work to others. It was clearly sword points to the heavens, begging the Templar battle team to help deal with Chuanjin. Now that it came out of Blood Rain's mouth, it became that they were of noble character and were helping the Templar battle team. Not only would the Templar battle team not get anything, but they would also have to take the blame for sword points to the heavens and be hated by Chuanjin. What kind of people were Chuanjin? Despicable people. As the saying went, it was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge, but Chuanjin took revenge from dawn to dusk. Offending these people meant that they would be harassed endlessly. This was why the Blood Alliance and the Heavenly Sword didn't dare to provoke the Quanzhun sect, even though they had close to 100,000 players. It was too annoying. Of course, this was the effect that the Templar battle team wanted. From their point of view, it wasn't a matter of who would lose and who would gain. Be it Meng Shi or the Templar battle team, they weren't idiots and wouldn't do a losing deal. After discussing the conditions, Meng Shi said, "When do we start taking over the city?" Blood Rain said, "No rush. We have to wait for Chuanjin to come online." Although seizing power and sieging the city were both about taking the position of the city lord, the playstyle was different. Sieging the city was me giving you a challenge, bringing people to the city, and taking it by force. Seizing power was a bit of a covert move, leaning towards assassination and a battle of wits. Although it could be a large-scale battle like sieging the city, in reality, they just needed to assassinate the city lord and take the city lord's seal. During the period of seizing power, the city lord's special rights wouldn't be of any use to the players. However, the city lord would also receive an assassination notification and be prepared. Under most circumstances, the guilds that dared to seize power were definitely extremely confident in their own guild strength. Their own guild was definitely much stronger than the city lord's guild, so most of the time, they would declare war and attack. My fists are big, so I have the final say in this territory. Because of a deterrence of strength, others wouldn't dare to seize power. Otherwise, even if the assassination succeeded, if they took the city today, it would be taken back in a few days. That would be pitiful. As for Chuanjin, the captain understood it very well. Seizing power was mainly to take the seal, not to compete on who was more vicious. Chuanjin's people were all strong and slippery. If there were too many of them, the target would be too big and it wouldn't be easy to succeed. Attacking head-on was basically impossible. As for assassination, there was a warning. With Wang Yu's combat strength, he wouldn't even be afraid of stabbing him in the back. So how could he be caught if he was prepared? Because of this, Point Finger in the Heavens had mixed feelings towards Chuanjin. They hated it, but didn't have any way to solve it. This time, with the help of a strong expert like Saint Church, along with Point Finger in the Heaven's own experts, they didn't believe that Chuanjin wouldn't submit. At this point, some people might ask, if Point Finger in the Heavens took Chuanjin's city, weren't they afraid that Chuanjin would take it back? Of course, they were afraid. However, the main city's prestige and construction rate would be halved. If it was a big guild like Blood Alliance, they would be able to get it back in a few days. As for Chuanjin's people, wouldn't they be able to get it back until the game closed and Dragon Ascension closed down? Meng Shi and her group had waited from the start of the game to the merge. They had waited for so long, so naturally, they wouldn't care about waiting for a day. Okay, tomorrow when they come online, remember to inform me. After saying that, Meng Shi brought her people and left Point Finger in the Heaven's office. P.S. Damn, at the start, Old Cow thought that this plan was too simple, but when I wrote up to this point, I realized that my logic didn't make sense. To come up with a plan, I wasted so much saliva. Old Cow, I did this for the reader's experience, otherwise you guys would say that I insulted your intelligence. Chapter 1477. It wasn't the first time for Chuanjin to be chased and forced to go offline. Although they were the ones who chased and killed others ever since they met Wang Yu, this instinct was ingrained in their bones. Therefore, they also had a precise calculation method in their minds for how many days they should go offline. If they had offended a major guild, then they could just hide for 3 to 7 days. After the limelight had passed, the other party's patience would gradually wear down. With their strength, it was quite easy for them to slip away when the other party wasn't paying attention. As for a small group like the Templar Battle Squad, it didn't matter. After all, in the hearts of Chuanjin's people, they were just ordinary people who liked to commit murder and commit arson. The reason why the Templar Battle Squad was looking for them was all because of Wang Yu. It was impossible for the magnificent Tang Squad to wait for them in the tavern for the whole night. Therefore, at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning the next day, the killed Chuanjin people went online early and deliberately avoided the time when the Templar Battle Squad was online. However, when Wu Ji and the others went online from the tavern, they found that there were only a few players sitting there. Huh? Why are there people in the tavern? Seeing that there were other players in the tavern, Wu Ji immediately showed a surprised expression. It must be known that not everyone liked the atmosphere of the tavern. Most players would find a relatively quiet place to talk or exchange feelings. Besides, what time was it? It was 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Let alone normal players. Even night owls would be asleep at this time. It was really strange that there were players in a place like the tavern. Nonsense. Chun Xiang rolled his eyes and said, "This tavern isn't owned by your family. What's so strange if there are people here? What if it's an all-nighter dog that came here to rest? Let's go while there's no one here." In Lao Air also said, "Brother Chun is right. Let's go quickly, or else those guys will come again." That's true. Although Wuji still felt that something was wrong, what Chun Xiang said wasn't unreasonable. So he nodded and said, "Let's go quickly and gather with the others." With that said, the three of them walked out of the tavern. Whoosh! However, as soon as the three of them walked out of the hotel, they heard the sound of something tearing through the air. An arrow flew toward Wuji and the others. Startled, the trio hurriedly turned to look at the source of the voice. Before they knew it, a party of players had appeared a short distance ahead. The leader of the group was an orc with grayish-white skin and protruding fangs. It was Lokbai, who had attacked the Chuanjin group yesterday. Behind him stood the beautiful girl called Meng Shi. Seeing these people, Quan Zhen and the other two were startled. Why did these people have so much free time? They were still in the tavern at this time. Although everyone was surprised, their hands were not idle. In Lao Air placed a shield horizontally in front of Wuji and Chun Xiang, blocking the orc archer's arrow. However, before the arrow could hit In Lao Air's shield, Jeff waved his staff, and a golden portal suddenly appeared in front of the arrow, swallowing it. Pooh! When the Quan Zhen people saw this, they were slightly stunned. Before they could react, the other end of the teleportation portal appeared behind Wuji's head. The arrow pierced the back of Wuji's head without any deviations. Bang! The arrow exploded, and the HP bar on Wuji's head dropped by a third. Chun Xiang, who was beside Wuji, also swayed slightly from the explosion. Explosive arrow. Archers could detonate a skill that dealt double AoE damage. F***CK. Being hit by Derek's arrow, Quan Zhen and the other two gritted their teeth in hatred. It was not because of the rare skill, explosive arrow, but because of Spatial Mage Jeff's spatial magic. Although there was only one portal skill in this space magic, it was disgusting in Jeff's hands. Players could roughly divide their professions into 3 paths: defense, damage, and support. Spatial mages could not only instantly kill warriors, but their defense could also ignore all attacks. Now, they could even support others' attacks. Such an all-round profession was disgusting. They had played the game for a long time, but apart from Wang Yu, they had never seen such a difficult person to deal with. The reason why Wang Yu was so overpowered was because of his skills. Whether it was strong or weak depended on Wang Yu's hardware. The system couldn't target players because of the player's mechanics. But this F***king mage relied on his class advantage. This was because of the system. How could such a disgusting profession be created? It affected the other players' experience too much. How could such a shameless profession be tolerated? Quan Zhen and the other two couldn't compare to these guys in terms of numbers and strength. There was no hope of winning. Without another word, Wuji immediately ordered retreat. After receiving Wuji's order, the 3 turned and ran to the other end. Locke and the others didn't chase after them. Instead, they crossed their arms and smiled as they watched the Quan Zhen trio escape. After Wuji and the others ran a few steps, an assassin suddenly appeared beside Wuji and extended his leg under In Lao Air's feet. Plop! In Lao Air accidentally tripped and fell on top of Wuji and Chun Xiang. Chun Xiang and Wuji were both magic professions. They didn't have the quick recover of close combat professions. After being caught off guard by the clumsy In Lao Air, how could they stand still? The 3 of them fell into a ball and fell in front of a pair of big green feet. Seeing the feet, the 3 looked up and saw an orc warrior with 6 javelins on his back and a greatsword looking at them. Trying to run, the orc warrior looked at them with disdain. He stabbed his long sword into the ground and revealed a ferocious expression. At this time, the orc assassin who tripped up In Lao Air limped to the orc warrior's side. There was a wolf in front and a tiger behind. It wouldn't be easy for the 3 to escape. Wuji's expression changed, and he said with a smile, "Ayaya, Miss Meng, it's so early. Aren't you going to take a beauty nap?" "I'm jet-lagged." Meng, she said calmly. Wuji choked and paused for a moment before saying, "There's no enmity between us. Why do you have to make things difficult for us?" Mengshi said, "I'm just looking for someone. Can't you just hand him over? Don't blame me for not giving you a chance. I'll ask you again, are you going to hand him over or not?" Old cow. As soon as Mengshi finished speaking, Wuji suddenly looked behind Mengshi and revealed a happy expression. Seeing Wuji's expression, Mengshi and the others hurriedly turned around in confusion. At the same time, Wuji rushed forward and hugged the orc assassin. He shouted to Chun Xiang and the others, "Run!" Chapter 1478. Oh no, it's self-destruction. Cthulhu run. Seeing the holy light on Wuji's body, the orc warrior was shocked and hurriedly shouted a warning. However, his mouth was not as fast as an explosion. Before the orc warrior could finish speaking, Wuji had already exploded. Boom! With a loud explosion, Wuji's health bar emptied, and the orc assassin, Cthulhu, was blown into a streak of white light. "I want your life." Seeing that his companion had been killed by such a shameless method, the orc warrior flew into a rage. With a roar, he pulled back his right hand, grabbed a javelin, and threw it at Wuji. Wuji did not panic. He casually threw a holy light shield over his head. Duong! Wuji's invincible holy light shield bounced the javelin to the side. Chun Xiang and Yin Lao took the opportunity to release the cloaks on their backs and flew up. Everyone who played online games knew that there was a channeling time to summon a mount. Summoning a cloak required a channeling time as well. Moreover, the channeling time could not be attacked, or else it would be interrupted. Seeing that the two were about to run, Lockby hurriedly shouted at the orc warrior, "Bruce, don't let them get away." The orc warrior received the order and immediately changed his target. He raised his hand to attack Chun Xiang and Yin Lao Air. "Try to run?" Wuji laughed coldly. His body once again emitted a white light. Bruce's attack was directly absorbed into Wuji's body. Priest rare skill, Sacrifice. This was a skill similar to a shield warrior's taunt. It could force the opponent to attack the caster. Wuji had a holy light shield, so Bruce's attack naturally had no effect. This mistake bought Chun Xiang and Yin Lao some time. Lockby panicked when he saw that Wuji was so difficult to deal with. He raised his hands and used gravity. Under Lockby's control, the floorboards on the street flew up and smashed towards Chun Xiang and Yin Lao Air. Chun Xiang smashed his staff on the ground. 10 evil spirits surrounded Chun Xiang and Yin Lao Air, blocking the flying floorboards. After releasing his wings, Yin Lao Air soared into the sky. The evil spirit of Spring Soar had thick skin and flesh, so it didn't suffer much damage from Lockby's attacks. It seemed like the power of the gravity spell itself was not that great. It was just that its control effect was amazing. Seeing that Chun Xiang was about to escape, Derek drew his bow and shot a storm of arrows at Chun Xiang. At the same time, Jeff waved his staff in the air, and the portal once again appeared in front of and above Chun Xiang. Locke controlled the floor and the rain of arrows to fly into the portal. Floor tiles and arrows rained down from the sky towards Chun Xiang. Just when they thought that Chun Xiang was going to be smashed to death, Chun Xiang smiled wretchedly and turned into a cloud of green smoke. Mist transformation. In his atomized state, he was immune to all physical attacks. As an archer, his attacks were naturally physical attacks. Although Lockby was a mage, the mechanism of his gravity spell was different from other mages. Normal mages used magic as a medium to summon elemental attacks, but Lockby controlled his physical body to attack. Of course, it was also within the range of physical attacks. Just like that, Chun Xiang floated into the air under the combined damage of the three of them. Seeing Chun Xiang turn to smoke, Lockby and the others were dumbfounded. What kind of skill was that? It was too shameless. Did you see that? This was the nature of players. No matter how overpowered their own skills and professions were, they would take it for granted. If others were slightly more overpowered, they would think that they were cheating. Ha ha! Seeing that Yin Lao, Air, and Chun Xiang had escaped into the sky, Wuji laughed and cast a red invincibility spell on himself. The invincibility spell could not be interrupted. Wuji endured the attacks of Lock Bai and the others. He spread his wings and soared into the sky, chasing after Yin Lao Air. F***CK. Lock Bai cursed angrily when he saw that Quan Zhun and the others had escaped from his team's encirclement once again. He almost threw his staff away. The others looked at Wuji Sanran, who was swaggering in the sky. They were angry and unwilling. F***CK. Looking at the Templar Battle Squad members on the ground, Yin Lao Air cursed. Why doesn't the game support urinating and defecating everywhere? Why? Didn't you go to the toilet when you enter the game? Chun Xiang and Wuji asked curiously. No, Yin Lao Air said. I really want to poop on their heads right now. Ugh. Chun Xiang and Wuji were speechless. They were all highly educated people. Pooping and peeing were just for fun. Even if the game supported it, they would not do it. After circling in the air and provoking them for a while, Wuji and the others flew into the sky and left the tavern street. They flew to the city gate to meet up with Bao San and the others. Compared to the main city of Yuhuicheng, the wild map was much bigger. The teachers of the Wizardry Academy could search for coordinates for a fee. Yuhuicheng was such a small map that they might run into the Templar Battle Squad no matter where they went. However, the wild map was huge and there were all kinds of terrains. The Templar Battle Squad was not familiar with the place. Even if they had the coordinates, it would be difficult to find them. Hence, Quan Zhun and the others decided to hide in the Wild Instance Dungeon and wait for Wang Yu to come online. Bao San and the others had been waiting for a long time at the entrance of Yuhuicheng. When they saw Wuji and the others flying over, they quickly stood up to welcome them. However, as soon as Wuji and the others landed, a golden teleportation door appeared behind them. Then, the orc warrior, Bruce, jumped from the other side of the teleportation door and appeared in front of Quan Zhun and the others. F***CK. You can do that? Quan Zhun and the others were shocked when they saw Locke and the others chasing after them. Damn it, this spatial magician can even open a teleportation door. He's like a ghost that won't go away. To deal with such a group of freaks, the only thing Wuji could think of was to use his self-destruct style to delay them for a while and then fly away. However, he had already used up his self-destruct style and was at his wit's end. In order to find a way, Wuji had no choice but to order the others to leave before the other party teleported over. Ignore them, let's go. Fortunately, Quan Zhun and the others had already summoned their wings. After receiving Wuji's order, they quickly took off again. Before Quan Zhun could fly too high, the Templar Battle Squad had already caught up to Quan Zhun. Looking at the group of people from the Quan Zhun sect flying into the sky, the Templar Battle team also rubbed their hands and summoned their cloaks. They spread their wings and summoned their cloaks as well. F***CK. Quan Zhun and the others were shocked when they saw their opponents flying up. This is impossible. Why do they have wings? Could it be that someone in Yuhuicheng is helping them? Chapter 1479. Cloaks were rare items that could only be found in the national server. Moreover, they could not be bought even if one had the money. The Templar Battle Squad was just a group of outsiders, yet they had so many cloaks. It was obvious that someone was secretly supporting them. However, the situation was urgent. The Templar Battle Squad had already caught up to them. They did not have the time to think about who was behind them. They spread their wings and flew higher into the sky. A player's flying speed was directly linked to their own movement speed. Currently, Chuanjin was either a tank or a mage. None of them could run fast, even though they had the advantage of flying first. However, the Templar Battle Squad quickly caught up to them. Yin Lao Air was the slowest player in Chuanjin. The warrior's charge skill could not be used in the air. Seeing that he was about to be caught, Yin Lao Air shouted, "You guys go first. I'll hold him off for a while." As he spoke, he raised a shield and turned around to face his pursuers. The opponents were all top-tier experts. No matter how strong Yin Lao Air was, it was obvious what would happen to him if he was surrounded by so many experts. In the blink of an eye, Yin Lao Air was hit in the head by an arrow falling from the sky. He was stunned and rooted to the ground. Lokbai grabbed Yin's second brother with both hands, not letting him fall. Jeff spun his staff in the air, and a golden portal appeared above Yin's second brother's head. F***CK. Seeing this scene, the Chuanjin battle squad was shocked. Is he going to use this trick again? Bang! Just as Yin Lao Air was about to be killed, the sound of a bowstring suddenly came from behind the Templar battle squad. The members of the Templar squad immediately turned their heads, only to see a thick arrow flying straight towards Jeff. In the distance where the arrow came from, a strong archer was hovering in the air, knocking an arrow towards them. It was none other than the left hand of the Grim Reaper. The javelin-like arrow gave the Templar battle squad a fright. Jeff instinctively dodged, and the arrow brushed past him. The portal above Yin Lao Air's head immediately dissipated. Bang! At the same time, the Grim Reaper's left hand shot out a second arrow. Kuei Gang! Lokbai shouted in panic. The tall and burly Grandmaster of Combat beside Jeff flashed and blocked the arrow from the Grim Reaper's left hand. He rubbed his hands together and caught the arrow. Whiz! The arrow let out a strange, screeching sound. Kuei Gang was knocked back several meters and crashed into Jeff, interrupting his spell once again. Bang! The third arrow from the Grim Reaper's left hand arrived. In the blink of an eye, Jeff waved his hand and a portal appeared before Kagon. The arrow from the Grim Reaper's left hand passed through the portal and shot toward him. The Grim Reaper's left hand was also quite skilled. He grabbed the arrow with his free left hand and was about to shoot it again. Just then, Kuei Gang jumped out of the portal and punched the Grim Reaper's left hand. Kuei Gang was able to catch the arrow, so his strength was obviously not low. The Grim Reaper's left hand did not dare to take his fist head-on. He quickly dodged and waved his hand. The longbow in his hand transformed into a huge flaming longsword and slashed at Kuei Gang. Between the two of them, one was an archer with a sword, and the other was a Grandmaster of Combat with strong control abilities. After a few exchanges, they were evenly matched. Seeing this scene, the members of the Templar battle squad were dumbfounded. An archer fighting a Grandmaster of Combat in close combat. Was there anything more powerful than this? No wonder people said that the China server was not easy to get involved in. It seemed that the saying was true. Just then, Yin Lao Air broke free from Lokbai's grasp and turned to run. However, what made Yin Lao Air angry was that Wuji and the others did not move. Are you idiots waiting to die? Yin Lao Air shouted anxiously. Ha ha ha. Not only was Wuji not angry, but he laughed and said, "It's not certain who's waiting to die. Look who's here." Hearing that, Yin Lao Air was stunned. He quickly followed Wuji's gaze and saw that at the corner of the street, a big Grandmaster of Combat had appeared out of nowhere. He crossed his arms and looked at the people in the sky with interest. F***CK. Nyoga, you're finally here. Seeing the Grandmaster of Combat, Yin Lao Air was in tears. He shouted at Wang Yu, who was on the ground, "Nyoga, over here. Trying to play tricks again?" Hearing Yin Lao Air's words, Lokbai's face showed a hint of disdain. What the F***CK? Nyoga, can't you change your name? Do you want to use the same trick twice? Then, Lokbai waved at the people behind him, signaling them to charge. Hey! However, at this moment, an unfamiliar voice suddenly came from behind. More reinforcements? Hearing the voice, the people from the Templar battle team turned around, only to see Wang Yu waving at them and saying, "Everyone must be anxious. I just woke up to go to the toilet and came back after seeing the message. You guys are not dead yet? Can you save me some trouble?" F***CK. Hearing that, the people from Chuanjin scolded. "What does it have to do with us? This is your family's business, all right? We are innocent. You scum, you can't disregard our lives just for your own happiness." "Is that so? Then I'm going offline," Wang Yu said unkindly. Don't, F***CK. Uncle Nyo, Uncle Nyo, this kind of despicable behavior doesn't suit your style. Hearing that, the people from Xuanzhen hurriedly admitted defeat. Seeing that the people from Xuanzhen were scolding Xian Yao, the people from the Temple Battle team were speechless. Brother, you guys are being hunted. Can't you show some respect for our profession? Just as Lok Bai and the others were about to get angry, Wu Ji hurriedly pointed at Wang Yu and shouted to the people from the Temple Battle team, "See that? Your boss is looking for him. Bringing him back is better than hunting us down." Him? Jeff was stunned, a huge question mark popping up on his head. Lok Bai also had an exclamation mark popping up on his head. This kid is very ordinary. What kind of taste does the boss have? Who cares what she has? Just beat that big guy up. Wu Ji shouted. The people from Xuanzhen also echoed, "Yes, yes, yes, that's him. Beat him up. Don't go easy on us. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have been hunted down by you guys. Isn't he your companion?" Hearing that, Lok Bai and the others were a little confused. They had seen people betraying their teammates, but they had never seen someone betray their teammates like this. Hearing that, the people from Xuanzhen said in unison, "We are ashamed to be associated with such a scumbag." Hearing what the people from Xuanzhen said, Wang Yu's face darkened. "I'm really going offline now. Quick, 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 if you guys don't go, he's going to get away." Wu Ji hurriedly pointed at Wang Yu and shouted. Lok Bai and Jeff looked at each other, their eyes full of doubt. Chapter 1480. Whoosh. With a piercing sound, the arrow shot toward Wang Yu's face with a white light. Wang Yu didn't dodge. He casually slapped the arrow to the side. Boom! The arrow landed on the ground and exploded beside Wang Yu. Wang Yu calmly took a step back and dodged the explosion of the arrow. Seeing that Wang Yu dodged the arrow attack, Derek immediately revealed a surprised expression. It wasn't strange for him to shoot down the arrow. What was strange was that the arrow's second explosion effect didn't hurt Wang Yu at all. The explosion effect of the explosive arrow was a small-scale AoE skill. Even a top-tier player would find it difficult to dodge the AoE skill without using any movement skills. "Who are you?" Derek asked in surprise as he sized up Wang Yu. "Iron Ox." Wang Yu calmly announced his name. "You are Iron Ox?" Hearing Wang Yu's name, the rest of the Templar battle team's attention was drawn to him. Kuei Gang also forced the Grim Reaper's left hand to retreat and flew back to the formation. Seeing that his opponent was trying to escape, the Grim Reaper's left hand pulled out an arrow and knocked it. Bang! With a loud sound, the arrow flew towards Kuei Gang. Jeff didn't even look at the Grim Reaper's left hand's arrow. He waved his staff in the air and swallowed the arrow. The arrow passed through the portal and flew towards Wang Yu. Wang Yu lifted her foot and kicked the arrowhead. Bang! The direction of the arrow deviated, and it stuck deeply into the wall beside Wang Yu. The slightly swaying arrowhead showed how powerful the arrow was. Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Although the members of the Templar battle team didn't know how powerful the Grim Reaper's left hand was, they had fought against him before and were well aware of Kuei Gang's strength. Even a strength-based Grandmaster of Combat like Kuei Gang would not dare to take the arrow head-on, not to mention how tough this close combat archer was. However, Wang Yu had easily kicked it away with a simple kick. In the eyes of an outsider, this was just a simple kick from Wang Yu. But in the eyes of the experts, the speed of Wang Yu's kick, the precision of the angle, and the steadiness of his state of mind had reached a shocking level. After all, not many people dared to take such a powerful shot. The Grim Reaper's left hand was in tears. "Nyoga, can you give me some face?" Bullsh *T. Wang Yu glared at the Grim Reaper's left hand and said, "You don't have to give me face. You have to take the initiative to throw it away. If you dare shoot another arrow, I will kill you." It makes me feel better to hear that. Although he was criticized by Wang Yu, Grim Reaper's left hand wore a gratified expression. Since Wang Yu said that, it was obvious that his attacks had put a lot of pressure on Wang Yu. As he spoke, Grim Reaper's left hand ran back to the Xuanzhen group. The Xuanzhen members were very pleased with the appearance of the Grim Reaper's left hand. After all, those who came to help at this time were all brothers who were on good terms with each other. Seeing Grim Reaper's left hand coming over, the Chuanjian people came over enthusiastically and said, "Hey, left hand, where did you get those wings?" "Nana asked me to borrow it," Death's left hand replied, casually. "Nana?" When the Chuanjian people heard this, their faces darkened. They waved their hands in displeasure and chased him away. "All right, hurry up and scram. Don't let us see you." "Bloody hell, you poached a girl from Chuanjian, and now you're here to offer your treasures? You're really despicable." While Chuanjian was messing around, the Templar battle team and the others had already recovered from their shock. Wang Yu stared at Wang Yu and said calmly, "As expected of City Lord Yu Huicheng, you live up to your reputation. We were just about to look for you." "Oh." Wang Yu raised his eyebrows and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" "I want to borrow something," Lok Bai said. Wang Yu was puzzled. "What is it?" "The seal," Jeff said coldly. Jeff lived up to his reputation as the king of awkward silence. The moment he said that, the atmosphere immediately fell to the extreme. Not far away, the Chuanjian people, who were crossing their arms and planning to watch the show, heard this and their expressions darkened. They all took out their weapons. Damn, everyone thought that these people were looking for Wang Yu to find a husband. But it turned out that they were here to snatch the seal. These were two completely different concepts. After all, the worst outcome of looking for a husband was wishful thinking. If the transaction didn't work out, everyone would just be playing a game. Because of this, they would at most not interact with each other, and it was impossible for them to become enemies. However, the nature of snatching the seal was the same as killing people to snatch equipment. In this world where things were more valuable than lives, snatching things was worse than killing people. The best outcome was that they would become mortal enemies. These people were very brave. They actually dared to snatch something from Chuanjian. "Interesting." Wang Yu smiled slightly. "Do you know where this is?" "As long as I want to, you won't even be able to leave the city." "Is that so?" Lok Bai smiled and said, "Then you can try." Just as Lok Bai finished speaking, Wang Yu suddenly received a system notification. Yu Huicheng is the city lord of Iron Ox. He doesn't care about political affairs. During his reign, the heavens were angry and the people resented him, causing the people to be dissatisfied. He has decided to overthrow the tyranny. Do you want to suppress him? Wang Yu saw the notification and was stunned for a moment. He clicked confirm. System notification. During the suppression period, the City Lord's authority will be temporarily suspended. City Lord players, please be careful when you go out to avoid being assassinated by mobs. Old cow, what's going on? As players of Wang Yu's guild, Quan Zhen and the others also received a system notification to protect Wang Yu. Someone is plotting a rebellion. Wang Yu replied with a solemn expression. Logically speaking, although Wang Yu was a hands-off leader, he was not bad in terms of political achievements. The sea trade route and dungeon rewards were much better than the other main cities. Under Wang Yu's leadership, Yu Huicheng's main city's strength rose along with the tide. It was not inferior to the main city of District 7, God of War City. Wang Yu felt that he was quite competent, but he never thought that there would still be people who wanted to rebel against him. Even though Wang Yu did not receive any substantial damage, it still made Wang Yu feel somewhat uncomfortable. There was no helping it. This was a common problem for newbies. They were too immersed in the situation. Hee hee. Seeing Wang Yu's expression, Lok Bai smiled and said, "How about it, City Lord? Can you still prevent us from leaving the city? I advise you to obediently hand over the seal. Otherwise, we won't hold back when we fight. At your level, 10% experience is not easy to train." Oomph. Hearing Lok Bai's words, Wang Yu said calmly, "It's just that I can't use the City Lord's authority for the time being. Do you still think that you've won?" "Oh," Lok Bai said in surprise. "You can't possibly think that you and your weak companions can stop the Templar battle team, right?" No. Wang Yu shook his head and said, "I alone am enough to deal with trash. You actually dare to call me trash." Hearing Wang Yu's words, Lok Bai's expression changed slightly. Chapter 1481. F***CK. He's too arrogant. Upon hearing Wang Yu's words, the members of the Templar battle team almost fainted from anger. It was important to note that esports was different from ordinary sports. In today's society, the value of a gamer was much higher than that of an ordinary sports star. They were even comparable to a celebrity. The Templar battle team, the world's top professional players, had a great influence. Not only in the European server, but even in the local server, every veteran gamer would have heard of them. Wherever they went, they would be surrounded by stars. There wasn't much of a difference between playing games and practicing martial arts. At the level of the Templar battle team, they would naturally have a sense of confidence and pride. Now that they were being mocked by a nameless nobody, how could they tolerate it? Lockby and Jeff were still calm, but the hot-tempered orc warrior, Bruce, was enraged. He grabbed a javelin from behind him with his right hand and threw it at Wang Yu. Facing the flying javelin, Wang Yu took half a step back unhurriedly. He extended his left hand and caught Bruce's javelin firmly in his hand. Bruce was stunned when he saw that his javelin was caught by Wang Yu. Then, he spread his arms and lowered his head. The remaining 3 javelins on his back flew toward Wang Yu. Bruce held his two-handed sword upside down, retracted his wings, and followed closely behind the javelins. He performed collapsing mountain from above and slashed at Wang Yu. Sneaky. Upon seeing Bruce's attack, the Chuanjin members could not help but give him the middle finger. As a top-notch expert, Bruce was not only good at close combat, but the damage of the 3 javelins was also quite strong. At that moment, the javelins blocked Wang Yu's path in front of him, and Bruce followed up with another attack from behind. No matter which one Wang Yu blocked, he would have to take the hit. To everyone's surprise, Wang Yu remained calm. Not only did he not retreat, but he also took a step forward. Puffed. Just then, Bruce's 3 javelins brushed past the back of Wang Yu's head and stuck into the ground behind Wang Yu. The javelins, which were 1.5 meters long, were more than halfway into the ground. It could be seen how powerful these javelins were. Even if Wang Yu was hit by one, he would still be half dead. This is impossible. Seeing that Wang Yu had easily dodged his attack, Brosnan was horrified. However, before Brosnan could recover, Wang Yu smirked and reached out his right hand. He dodged Brosnan's long sword and grabbed Brosnan's wrist. Come down. Wang Yu turned his body backward and used his right hand, which was grabbing Brosnan's wrist, to exert force and perform Tiger Strike. Although Collapsing Mountain had high priority, it was still slightly inferior to a grab skill like Ferocious Tiger Strike. Bruce had jumped from the top to the bottom, and now that he was pulled down by Wang Yu, his fate was obvious. In midair, Brosnan lost control of his body and was involuntarily pulled toward the ground. Boom! There was a loud noise, and Brosnan's face hit the ground. He fell headfirst, kicking up a cloud of dust. After pulling Brosnan down from the sky, Wang Yu did not stop. He raised the javelin in his left hand, gripped it with both hands, and stabbed it down between Brosnan's legs. Brosnan's miserable scream tore through the sky. In an instant, the entire place fell silent. There was no need to mention the Quanjin people. This was not the first time they had seen Wang Yu's actions of attacking 3 of his subordinates. However, when they saw Wang Yu's methods again, they still broke out in cold sweat and felt a chill in their groins. As for the members of the Templar battle team, their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. This was the first time they had seen such a terrifying scene. Of course, it was not only because of Wang Yu's ruthlessness, but also because of Wang Yu's precise control. Most players in the game were ordinary people. For ordinary people, if an opponent used a skill to attack them, there were only 3 ways to deal with it. 1. Dodge. 2. Block. 3. Take a beating. Uncle Neo does not recommend using this method. On the other hand, Wang Yu did not dodge or block. It was not that he did not take a beating. Instead, he directly countered his opponent's skill. Even the experts of the Templar battle team did not dare to imagine such a shocking operation. One had to know that every skill had its own unique mechanism and attack effect. To counter a skill, one had to find its flaws and then counterattack from there. From the moment the skill was released to the moment it hit the target, it took only a blink of an eye. Wang Yu had found the flaw in such a short time and made a precise counterattack. Whether it was his reaction speed, insight, or the precision of his attack, they were all terrifying. What was more terrifying was that Wang Yu's move was executed smoothly, as if he did not think much at all. It was a kind of battle instinct, such terrifying battle instinct. It was truly shocking. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. This principle was even more obvious in the game. Therefore, those who played with experts in the game were experts, and those who played with ordinary players were also ordinary players. The Templar battle team had fought against Xuanzhen before, so they had some understanding of Xuanzhen's strength. Although this group of people was extraordinarily strong and full of tricks, there was still a slight gap between them and true professional experts, not to mention top-tier experts like themselves. Therefore, in the minds of the Templar battle team, since Wang Yu played with Xuanzhen's people, his strength should be about the same as theirs. Even if he was stronger, it would not be by much. But now, it seemed that this guy in front of them was not just a little stronger than Xuanzhen's people. He was even a little strange. Thinking of this, Lokbai did not waste any time and immediately ordered, "This guy is very strange. No one is a match for him in a one-on-one fight. Everyone attack together." As he spoke, Lokbai raised his hand in midair and lifted Bruce up. Then he waved his left hand outwards, and the tiles on the street and roofs were all lifted up. Together with Bruce, they were all thrown towards Wang Yu. This was the first time Wang Yu had seen Lokbai's gravity spell. Seeing such a strange spell, Wang Yu could not help but be slightly stunned. While he was still in a daze, the tiles on the ground covered the sky and landed in front of Wang Yu. Bruce, who was hiding among the tiles, held his sword with both hands and used Collapsing Mountain and Splitting Earth Slash at Wang Yu. Collapsing Mountain was a warrior's ultimate skill. Its priority was many times higher than a low-leveled skill like Tiger Strike. Naturally, Wang Yu would not receive the attack head-on. Hence, she lightly jumped back, dodging the tiles on the floor. At the same time, she jumped out of Bruce's skill range. Whoosh! Chapter 1482. Professional experts all had extraordinary predictive abilities. The moment Bruce used the Collapsing Mountains and Splitting Earth Slash, Derek had already determined Wang Yu's landing spot. As Wang Yu jumped back, Bruce shot a shock arrow. It was common knowledge that players had the worst mobility when they were in midair. It was especially true for Wang Yu, who had just landed on the ground. Her vigilance was also extremely low. Wang Yu definitely wouldn't be able to dodge this arrow. Shock arrow was one of the few control skills of archers. As long as one touched it, one would be stunned. Once one was controlled, no matter how skillful one was, it would be useless. Not to mention Wang Yu, wasn't the Flaming Monarch Nevis awesome? After being stunned, he would still be tortured to death by the players. However, just as Derek's arrow was about to reach Wang Yu's face, something strange happened when Derek clenched his fists excitedly in order to subdue Wang Yu with this arrow. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu, who was in midair, took a step forward, and her body moved a few meters backward. Derek's arrow brushed past Wang Yu's shoulder and shot into the wall behind Wang Yu. "Jeff!" Seeing that the arrow had missed, Derek hurriedly called for backup. Jeff waved his staff, and a golden portal appeared out of thin air on the wall. Derek's arrow flew into the portal and appeared behind Wang Yu's head. Wang Yu did not even turn his head. He casually slapped his hand behind him, and a psychic wave shot out from his hand and hit the arrow. Poof! The priority of the shock arrow was obviously higher than that of the psychic wave. The psychic wave was penetrated by the arrow, but it was also deflected by the psychic wave. It flew diagonally upwards and disappeared from everyone's sight. *T. Seeing that Wang Yu had even dodged this arrow, Derek's heart raced. Jeff, who had always been calm, also revealed an expression of disbelief. The cooperation between these two had always been flawless. As long as the target was locked on by them, they would never miss it. However, Wang Yu did not give them any face and actually dodged it. The shock and difference between the two was absolutely indescribable. Wang Yu dodged the arrow and landed lightly. At the same time, the air behind Wang Yu twisted, and a dagger drilled out of the air and pierced towards Wang Yu's back. Old cow! Shout! Grim Reaper's left hand was shocked when he saw this and hurriedly tried to warn Wang Yu. However, before Grim Reaper's left hand could finish his words, Wang Yu tilted her body slightly as if she had eyes on the back of her head and coincidentally dodged the backstab. The assassin Cthulhu's figure appeared out of thin air. Wang Yu grabbed Cthulhu's hair and pulled him forward. Before the dumbfounded Cthulhu could react, Wang Yu pulled him in front of him and kicked Cthulhu's buttocks. Ayaya! Cthulhu fell forward from the kick and collided with Bruce, who was charging over. The two of them rolled into a ball and fell to the ground. Seeing that the members of the Templar battle team, who had been arrogantly chasing after them, had been beaten up by Wang Yu alone, the members of the Quan Jun sect were extremely excited. To place one's pride, even shouted, "Uncle Nyo, you can do it! Beat them up like how they beat me up." Humph. Locke frowned when he saw that Wang Yu was so difficult to deal with. He clasped his hands at Wang Yu and said, "Rise." As Locke cast the spell, Wang Yu suddenly felt as if he was grabbed by something and floated up involuntarily. Seeing this, he took out an arrow, aimed at Wang Yu, and fired another sniper arrow. It was either a shock arrow or a sniper arrow. Wang Yu could see that this guy was the most vicious in the Templar battle team. Before the arrow could reach his face, Wang Yu exerted force on his feet and used Thunderstomp. Locke's attraction spell could control objects, but there were many limitations when it came to controlling a living target. First of all, the target's priority could not be higher than the caster's. Therefore, Locke's attraction spell could at most control agility professions with low priority, such as assassins and archers. Locke's control over strength professions was somewhat limited. Although Wang Yu was not a strength profession, he had a higher priority as a Grandmaster of Combat. Wang Yu's strength attribute was also quite high. Therefore, although Locke could control Wang Yu, it was very difficult. Wang Yu would have been fine if he had not moved, but now that he used a skill with a high priority like Thunder Stomp, Locke could no longer control him. Duong! Lightning flashed under Wang Yu's feet, and he forcefully landed on the ground, evading Derek's sniper arrow. Kuei Gang, control him. At this moment, Locke gave another order. Although Locke had only controlled Wang Yu slightly, victory or defeat was decided in an instant. While Wang Yu was being controlled, Kuei Gang, the Grandmaster of Combat from the Templar battle team, had already rushed in front of Wang Yu. The moment Wang Yu landed, Kuei Gang stretched out his arms and aimed a knee strike at Wang Yu. Wang Yu hurriedly jumped back and dodged Kuei Gang's knee strike. Kuei Gang then followed up with a collapsing fist. His figure flashed, and he came face to face with Wang Yu. He closed his arms and directly hugged Wang Yu. That's right, he hugged Wang Yu. This control was really simple and brutal. Damn, we are all experts, but no one expected this kid to use such a shameless fighting method. If it was an attack on him, Wang Yu's agility would not be afraid. However, when he thought of Kuei Gang's shameless fighting method, Wang Yu was also helpless. Kuei Gang was obviously a Grandmaster of Combat who added his points to strength, and Wang Yu's strength was not low either. However, after being hugged by Kuei Gang, no matter how hard Wang Yu struggled, Kuei Gang would not let him go. Of course, Kuei Gang did not have it easy either. From the looks of Wang Yu's skills, his strength should not be too high. However, when Wang Yu struggled, Kuei Gang almost couldn't hold him anymore. Hurry up, I can't hold on any longer. Kuei Gang tightly wrapped his arms around Wang Yu and shouted at Locke while gritting his teeth. Don't worry, this is good. Gravity bind. Lockby responded. He pointed his grayish-white finger at Wang Yu, and a circle of light bound Wang Yu tightly. At this time, Bruce also got up and came in front of Wang Yu. Together with Kuei Gang, they grabbed Wang Yu's arms from behind and pressed down on Wang Yu's head. Lockby's gravity bind and the control of the two strength professions worked together to barely control Wang Yu. The people from the Templar battle team finally let out a long sigh of relief. To move unhindered for so long, this group of people had seen all kinds of storms. However, this was the first time they had encountered such a fierce and stubborn opponent. To think that they could only barely control him with their combined strength. He was more of a boss than a boss. Seeing that Wang Yu was also restrained by this group of people, the people from Xuanzhen who were watching from the sidelines were dumbfounded. To them, Wang Yu was the representative of invincibility. One could imagine how the people from Xuanzhen felt when Wang Yu was captured. Wu Ji immediately ordered reinforcements. "This is bad. Hurry up and help." With that, Wu Ji waved his staff and a holy light shield covered Wang Yu's head. "Oomph." Jeff snorted coldly. With a tap of his staff, a teleportation door appeared. Wu Ji's holy light spell passed through the teleportation door and landed on Lok Bai's head. Seeing this, Ming Du was so frightened that he quickly retracted the spell that he had yet to finish gathering. Chapter 1483. Now that Wang Yu was held tightly by his opponent and could not move, it was unwise to attack him now. If lightning were to strike Wang Yu's head, things would get out of hand. Since Ming Du did not dare to attack, the others naturally did the same. They were afraid that they would accidentally kill the wrong person. Wang Yu's death was a small matter, but if Wang Yu lost Yu Huicheng because of them, even if they knew that Wang Yu would not pursue the matter, they would still feel guilty. Under the deterrence of spatial sorcerer Jeff, no one in Xuanzhen dared to take a step forward. Seeing that Xuanzhen did not dare to act rashly, Jeff turned around and waved his staff at Wang Yu, who was held tightly. A teleportation door appeared above Wang Yu's head and was aimed at Wang Yu. F***CK. Seeing this, everyone in Xuanzhen was shocked. Everyone had seen this move before. Even a warrior like Bao San could be killed in one move. As a grandmaster of combat, Wang Yu would not be able to withstand it. However, under Jeff's deterrence, no one dared to step forward. Now it was too late to stop them. They could only watch as the teleportation door was placed above Wang Yu's head. "Oomph." Jeff snorted coldly, a disdainful smile on his face. He put his hands together, and the teleportation door was closed. Swoosh! With a flash of white light, Wang Yu disappeared in front of everyone. Yay! Seeing that Wang Yu was dead, everyone in Templar clenched their fists in excitement. Oh! However, when the people in Xuanzhen saw this white light, their eyebrows twitched slightly, revealing a hint of imperceptible excitement. Phew! After Wang Yu disappeared, Kuei Gang wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead and said with a long sigh, "This kid is really hard to deal with. Luckily, Jeff was here, or else I wouldn't know how to kill him." "Yeah," Bruce said with lingering fear. "I've played games for so long, but I've never seen such a strong guy. I can't believe that any random grandmaster of combat in the Chinese server has such strength. I really don't know how strong the Nine States team is now." That's not right. Just as the two of them were amazed by Wang Yu's strength, Cthulhu suddenly revealed a strange expression. "What's wrong?" The two of them turned their heads and asked in bewilderment. Cthulhu pondered and said, "We are now in the status of an assassination to seize power. If this guy dies, he should drop the Castellan seal, but why is there nothing here?" City Lord Seal? Hearing Cthulhu's doubts, Brooke and Cthulhu quickly looked down at their feet. As expected, there was nothing beneath their feet. Not to mention the Castellan seal, there wasn't even a strand of hair. The floor had been blown away by Lok Bai, and it had yet to respawn. That shouldn't be the case. The three of them were dumbstruck. At this moment, Lok Bai suddenly shouted, "Not good, that kid is not dead. Be careful behind you." With Lok Bai's reminder, Brooke and the other two rolled forward without thinking, away from where they were standing. Then, they looked back and saw a burly grandmaster of combat standing on the roof behind them. It was none other than Wang Yu. Not bad, not bad. On the roof, Wang Yu sized up the members of the Templar battle team and then rolled up his sleeves. Seeing Wang Yu's action, the members of Quan Zhun couldn't help but get excited. F***CK, the old cow is getting serious. I'm afraid these stars are finished. After spending so much time with Wang Yu, the members of Quan Zhun knew some of Wang Yu's habits in real life. For example, when Wang Yu looked at you with a faint smile, it meant that he had something against you. It was not too late to kneel down and admit his mistake. If they saw Wang Yu rolling up his sleeves, it meant that Wang Yu was getting serious. The act of rolling up his sleeves was to remove the seal. At this moment, kneeling down and admitting his mistake was useless. Taking care of the aftermath was the norm. Until now, there were very few opponents who could make Wang Yu do this. As expected of the internationally renowned Templar battle team, they had forced Wang Yu to use his ultimate move in just a few rounds. Now, I'll give you one more chance. After rolling up his sleeves, Wang Yu stared at Lok Bai and said, "Tell me, who ordered you to assassinate me, and I can spare your lives?" Lok Bai was also an expert who had been through hundreds of battles. He thought that he was very mentally strong, but when he met Wang Yu's gaze, he still felt a little scared. In order to hide his fear, Lok Bai said loudly, deliberately mystifying, "Kill him." As he spoke, Lok Bai waved his hand, and the bricks and tiles on the roof flew up and smashed towards Wang Yu. Seeing this, Wang Yu smiled slightly. He put his hands together and pushed them forward, shouting, "Go back." In an instant, two rays of light, one red and one blue, surrounded Wang Yu's palms. Then, two giant dragons, one ice and one fire, flew out from Wang Yu's palms and collided with the bricks and tiles that were flying toward him. The objects controlled by the gravity spell were not part of Lok Bai's skills, so the damage was basically equivalent to a normal attack. Facing Wang Yu's double dragon break, it was naturally vulnerable and was instantly swallowed by Wang Yu's two dragons. The two dragons did not lose their momentum and flew towards Lok Bai. Jeff waved his hand, and a portal appeared in front of the three of them. The two dragons entered the portal and appeared behind Wang Yu. Feeling the murderous intent behind him, Wang Yu narrowed his eyes and leaped. Boom! The two dragons smashed into the place where Wang Yu had been standing, and the roof was smashed into pieces. At the same time, he crisscrossed his hands and fired a series of arrows. More than 10 arrows flew towards Wang Yu. Wang Yu took a step back unhurriedly. He wrapped his left arm and hugged all the arrows under his armpit, then casually threw them back. Lok Bai and the other two took the opportunity to fold their wings and land on the ground. After all, whether it was speed or skill, the three of them were no match for Wang Yu. Even though they were all top experts, it was their first time using wings, so they were not good at flying. Rather than fighting in the sky, it was better to fight on the ground. Protect the back. Before Wang Yu could jump down from the roof, Bruce and Kuei Gang, who were on the ground, hurriedly flew up to the roof. They activated Collapsing Fist and rushed towards Wang Yu. Kuei Gang's Collapsing Fist was faster. He rushed in front of Wang Yu first and stretched out his arms to hug Wang Yu. The same move couldn't be used twice against Wang Yu. Wang Yu didn't hold back. He stomped on Kuei Gang's chest with Thunderstomp. Thunderstomp had a high priority. It could even kick a boss away. Kicking a mere Kuei Gang was a piece of cake. Boom! With a loud sound, Kuei Gang was sent flying by Wang Yu's kick and crashed into Bruce. Bang! Bruce was smashed off the roof, while Kuei Gang was pushed back by Bruce's charge. Wang Yu stretched out his arm and used Ferocious Tiger Strike to pull Kuei Gang's arm back. Boom! Kuei Gang smashed Kesselo, who was behind Wang Yu. The two couldn't help but roll into a ball and fall to the ground. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.